Chapter 765. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What was going on? Since he didn't take the facial restoration pill, nor did he have the detection of the Heaven's Eye Stone, how did he suddenly recover his true appearance? Do you think you can sneak into the city just by changing your appearance? How naive. The 4 city guards laughed mockingly. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang frowned. One of the guards said, "Look at what's under the ice." Ice. Qin Feiyang was slightly startled. He lowered his head and scanned the ice on the ground, but didn't find anything unusual. That's not right. Suddenly, he noticed that there seemed to be something under the ice. With a slight force from his feet, the ice layer broke open inch by inch, and in an instant, it was like a spider web. Next, with a wave of his hand, the shattered pieces of ice rose into the air. The things under the ice were also exposed to the air. They were strange stones that were shaped like eyes. They were the size of a palm, simple and unadorned, and looked very ordinary. But when he saw these stones, Qin Feiyang's expression changed. Because these were all Heaven's Eye Stone. He swept his gaze over them one by one, and discovered that the bottom of the ice at the city gate was actually covered with Heaven's Eye Stone. There were 500 to 600 of them. Normally speaking, the Heaven's Eye Stone needed to be touched in order to work, but there was also another situation. That was the quantity. The Heaven's Eye Stone itself emitted an invisible energy, but the energy of one Heaven's Eye Stone was very thin. However, if the number of Heaven's Eye Stones reached a certain level, then the energy would become denser. At that time, there was no need to touch it. As long as it was within a certain distance, the Heaven's Eye Stone would work. Qin Feiyang also never thought that there would be such a mechanism under the ice. It was simply impossible to guard against. Now that you have nowhere to run, obediently kneel down and accept your surrender, so as to avoid suffering physical pain. The 4 guards shouted. With just you guys? Qin Feiyang scanned the 4 of them. To ordinary people, the 9-star war sect was like a god. But in his eyes, they were inferior to ants. And us. Today, don't even think about escaping. The surrounding crowd also roared. Qin Feiyang looked at them one by one, and the disdain in his eyes deepened. The strongest here was only a 1-star battle ancestor. The rest of them were basically battle emperors, and some were even battle kings. However, for the sake of the 200 billion bounty, even those battle kings didn't back down at all. They stubbornly trapped Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "If I said that I didn't kill the 3 tribes, would you believe me?" Hearing this, everyone's faces were filled with ridicule. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Then pretend I didn't say anything. After saying that, he turned to look at the crowd behind him and said coldly, "Get out of the way if you don't want to die." However, those people acted as if they didn't hear him and remained indifferent. Moreover, his eyes flickered with shocking killing intent. Boom. Qin Feiyang was too lazy to waste any more words. The aura of a 5-star war master exploded forth with a loud bang. The surrounding crowd was instantly thrown off their feet. Bang bang bang. Some people crashed into the city wall, while others crashed into the ground. They all spat out blood, and their faces were pale. So powerful. This aura is almost on par with the commander. The 4 guards were also sent flying. They kept spitting out blood, and their eyes were filled with shock. Shua. Qin Feiyang didn't stay any longer. He used the phantom steps and rushed towards the forest outside the city like lightning. He was confident that he could break into the Ice City. However, now that his identity had been exposed, if he were to barge in, he would most likely die. This was because he could sense many powerful auras in the city, and some auras even surpassed his. Therefore, he had to retreat for the time being and think of a way to enter the city after the news had passed. You're not allowed to leave. Those who were sent flying by Qin Feiyang didn't give up either. Seeing him escape, they immediately got up and chased after him. You're really obsessed with money. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Anyone with a bit of rationality could tell that he had already shown mercy. And these people were still chasing after him? As the saying goes, one won't cry until one enters the coffin. Shua. Suddenly, 2 black figures appeared out of thin air above the city gate. Both of them looked middle-aged and were more than 9 meters tall. Their bodies were burly, and they exuded a valiant aura. Moreover, the aura exuding from their bodies was very terrifying. The two of them looked at Qin Feiyang, who was running away, and frowned slightly. Then, they opened a portal and walked in one after another. The next moment, the two of them appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. And Qin Feiyang braked and stopped in the snow, looking at the two of them in surprise. These two people actually looked exactly the same? Greetings, Commander. Greetings, Deputy Commander. As for the crowd behind Qin Feiyang, as well as the four guards, when they saw the two of them, they all bowed to greet them. Commander. Deputy Commander. Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed. Without a doubt, these two people must be the commander of the guards of Ice City. The commander had the cultivation of a 7-star battle grandmaster. The deputy commander was a 5-star battle grandmaster. Looking at their appearances, they were already twins. The two commanders were also sizing up Qin Feiyang. At the scene, dead silence. Suddenly, the deputy commander waved to the crowd behind Qin Feiyang and said, "All of you step back." Yes. Everyone respectfully replied and quickly retreated. Next, the deputy commander then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Are you still very young?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "You're so young, yet your heart is already so vicious. If you continue to live, I really don't know how many innocent people will die in your hands," the deputy commander said, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Vicious? Qin Feiyang sneered, pointed to the crowd that had retreated into the distance, looked at the deputy commander, and said, "Are you blind? If I was really vicious, would they still have the chance to watch the show?" The deputy commander said. "Then what about the destruction of the Min clan and the other two tribes?" Qin Feiyang said. "Someone wants to frame me." "Frame you?" The deputy commander was stunned, and then his face was full of sarcasm. He said, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child?" Qin Feiyang said helplessly, "Whether you believe it or not, this is the truth." "The truth?" The deputy commander sneered and said, "Let me tell you what is the truth. We went to the Min clan, the Wang clan, and the Li clan in person to ask. The surviving clansmen of the 3 tribes all claimed that you were an accomplice who destroyed their tribes and killed their clansmen. With so many witnesses, how do you still want to quibble?" The deputy commander looked at Qin Feiyang as if looking at a clown. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and wanted to say something. "It's all nonsense." But at this time, the Ice City commander, who had been silent all this while, snorted through his nose. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang expressionlessly and said, "Kneel down immediately and accept your execution. This commander will leave you with an intact corpse." "Okay, since it's nonsense, then I won't explain anymore. As long as you have the ability, I'll give you my head with both hands." Qin Feiyang looked at the commander without any fear. He had finally lost his patience. Arrogant. The commander's gaze turned cold, and the pressure of the 7 stars War Master broke out of his body. Like an invisible torrent, it pounced towards Qin Feiyang. "Humph!" Qin Feiyang snorted coldly and waved his hand. Red sword chi appeared, and 20 sword shadows instantly appeared out of nowhere. The terrifying sharpness suddenly toppled the mountains and overturned the seas, tearing apart the glaciers and earth. Seeing this, the two commanders' pupils shrank slightly. Boom! The deputy commander also immediately made his move, his hands dancing in the air. In the next moment, the accumulated snow within a radius of several miles rose into the air, like a white waterfall, surging into the sky. In the blink of an eye, a huge snow-white palm condensed, covering the sky and covering the sun, emitting a great pressure. At the same time, the commander also began to evolve his battle art. With a stretch of his hand, an ice mountain that was hundreds of feet tall suddenly rose from the ground. Next, he clenched his hand, and with an earth-shattering sound, the ice mountain shattered, turning into sharp ice cones. Each one was as thick as a thigh, floating behind him, filling half of the void. Their auras were firmly locked onto Qin Feiyang. Kill! In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the 10 sword shadows above his head cut through the sky, furiously slashing down. Die! The two commanders' eyes were also filled with killing intent. The huge palm condensed from snow suddenly trembled in the sky, bringing with it a terrifying power as it slapped towards the sword shadows. At the same time, those ice cones also broke through the air like sharp arrows, emitting an ear-piercing whistling sound. Clang! Boom! The 10 sword shadows took the lead to collide with the huge palm formed from snow. A loud explosion suddenly exploded, like the roar of thunder, shaking the mountains and rivers. That huge palm was immediately torn apart by the sharpness of the sword shadows, turning into nothingness. The huge palm flashed, and the vice commander also spat out a mouthful of blood, retreating continuously. Regarding this point, Qin Feiyang was not surprised, because although the vice commander's cultivation was the same as his, their battle arts were one level apart. The battle arts that the vice commander mastered were only superior slaughter battle arts, and could not block his Guiyuan sword technique at all. However, the vice commander was horrified. While retreating, he looked at the 10 sword shadows in shock and suddenly seemed to think of something, shouting, "Brother, be careful, he has a perfect battle art." What? Perfect battle art? The commander's expression changed, and his heart was filled with shock. One had to know. There was no perfect battle art in the entire second district. Even he, the commander, had never seen one before. It could even be said that perfect battle arts were a legendary existence in the second district, unattainable. However, he did not expect that this seemingly young man in front of him actually mastered a perfect battle art. Who exactly was he? Clang! Just as he was shocked, the sword shadows and the ice cones collided with a loud bang. Accompanied by a series of deafening noises, a destructive wave rolled wildly between heaven and earth. For a moment, within dozens of miles in the distance, glaciers collapsed, and the earth sank, as if the end of the world had arrived. Even the ice city was affected by it. The city walls were crumbling. Chapter 766. But suddenly, a man in white appeared and stood in the sky above Ice City. With a wave of his hand, a golden battle chi appeared and turned into a light screen in front of the city wall, blocking the surging waves. Next, the man in white looked at Qin Feiyang, who was fighting with the two commanders. Clang! The sword shadows and the icicles were still clashing. Waves of air waves continuously pounced in all directions. The ice and snow beneath Qin Feiyang and the commander had already disappeared, and was replaced by a huge sinkhole. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also retreating, and there were even strands of blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth. The 10 sword shadows were also shattering and disintegrating. The commander's strength was much stronger than the deputy commander's. The cultivation of a 7-star war master, coupled with the superior slaughter battle art, was enough to dominate the war master realm. As for Qin Feiyang, although the Guiyuan sword technique was a perfect battle art, his overall strength was a level lower than the commander's. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was no match for him, the commander heaved a sigh of relief and said coldly, "Even if you have mastered a perfect battle art, you will definitely die today. Isn't it too early to start being complacent?" Qin Feiyang laughed coldly, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and suddenly waved his hand. Clang! Crimson sword chi surged out and condensed into 20 sword shadows above his head. Every sword shadow was trembling violently and crazily, as if they were ready to move. Kill! Abruptly, Qin Feiyang shouted sternly. The 20 sword shadows were like ferocious tigers that had left their cages, crazily slashing forward. At this moment, only 5 of the 10 sword shadows remained. But when these 20 sword shadows joined in, the 25 sword shadows immediately turned into a torrent, crushing over with unstoppable force. Crack! One by one, the icicles shattered. The commander's face also turned pale bit by bit. Finally, the moment all the icicles shattered, he cried out and spat out blood. And of the 25 sword shadows, after a series of collisions, only 2 were left. Qin Feiyang glanced at the commander, then turned to look at the man in white standing above Ice City, killing intent surging in his eyes. Whoosh! He suddenly turned his head and waved his hand in the air. The 2 sword shadows immediately separated. One slashed towards the commander. One of them slashed towards the vice commander. From afar, they looked like 2 graceful flashes of light. It was impossible to capture their trajectories with one's eyes. Stop. Seeing this, the white-clothed man raised his eyebrows. His long hair fluttered in the wind. Boom. A terrifying pressure emerged and swept across the sky in an instant, rushing toward Qin Feiyang. However, Qin Feiyang did not stop there. Instead, he summoned the 9-leaf fire lotus. Because he knew that the two sword silhouettes could only kill the vice commander. As for the commanders, they would at most be injured. Therefore, he wouldn't give the commander of Frigid Ice City any chance to make a comeback. Clang! A fire lotus leaf left its body and shot towards the commander like a beam of light with a destructive aura. Just as the fire lotus leaf broke away, two sword shadows had already arrived. Dodge. The commander's expression changed. He turned to look at the vice commander and shouted. In fact, even without his reminder, the vice commander knew that he could not fight head-on. Moreover, he had already chosen to dodge at the first moment. However, the aura of the sword shadow was firmly locked onto him. No matter where he dodged, the sword shadow would follow. Moreover, the speed of the sword shadow was twice as fast as his dodging speed. Ah! Just as the commander was about to warn him, the sword shadow whizzed by and directly slashed him into two. Fresh blood stained the sky. His tragic cry reverberated through the clouds. Bastard! Seeing his own brother die in front of him, the commander cried out in grief, gritting his teeth and cracking his eyes. Swoosh! He suddenly turned around. Like a mad beast, he stared at Qin Feiyang and roared. If I don't kill you today, I'm not human. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a huge beast shadow roared from behind him. It was a raging bull. It was more than 100 feet tall, and its entire body seemed to be cast from stone, emitting a terrifying aura. And that pair of bull horns were several meters long, as if they were cast from divine iron, emitting a shocking cold light. This was his battle soul. Moo. Once the raging bull battle soul appeared, it roared towards the sky and charged towards the sword shadow. Boom. With a loud sound, the sword shadow instantly shattered. Qin Feiyang's body shook. A gush of hot blood rushed up to his throat, and he directly spat it out. As for the raging bull battle soul, it was almost torn apart by the sword shadow. It dragged its broken body and madly charged towards Qin Feiyang. Its millstone-sized fierce eyes flashed with a terrifying murderous light. Qin Feiyang smiled contemptuously. With a wave of his hand, the fire lotus leaf paused in the air and directly charged towards the raging bull battle soul. Boom! The fire lotus leaf's aura was like a rainbow, instantly shattering the raging bull battle soul. Then, without any pause, it swept in front of the commander like lightning. Explode! Qin Feiyang immediately shouted coldly. Boom! The fire lotus leaf exploded, and a destructive aura was born, drowning the commander. Ah! That mournful scream immediately resounded in all directions. Even the commander is not his match? No wonder he dared to massacre the 3 major tribes. It turns out that he is so strong. When the people of Ice City saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. Seeing the 2 commanders killed one after another, the eyes of the man in white standing above the city also flashed with a sharp light. All of this was said to be slow, but the entire process took less than 3 breaths. At this time, the pressure of the man in white finally descended, wanting to imprison Qin Feiyang in the air. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This pressure was quite strong. According to his judgment, it should be the 9-star battle sect. Swish. He turned around, looked at the man in white, and said indifferently, "You are the city lord of Ice City?" "That's right, it's me." The man in white nodded. However, there was a trace of surprise in his heart. Why did it seem like this kid wasn't affected by his pressure at all? "Don't bother me again." Qin Feiyang coldly said these words, then turned around and stepped on the phantom steps, breaking through the air. He really isn't affected. The city lord's gaze trembled. One had to know. He was a 9-star battle sect, and this Qin Feiyang was only a 5-star battle sect. Even if his pressure couldn't imprison Qin Feiyang, it could at least affect Qin Feiyang's speed, right? How did this kid do it? Suddenly, someone shouted, "City Lord, he's running away." The city lord came back to his senses and looked at Qin Feiyang, who was about to disappear into the horizon. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, "Don't worry, he won't be able to escape." Swish. As soon as he finished, he took a step forward and chased after Qin Feiyang. His speed was several times faster than Qin Feiyang's. Let's go and take a look as well. The people of the Ice City also swarmed out, turning into a tide of people as they chased after him. How troublesome. Above a forest of ice and snow, Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the city lord who was quickly approaching, and a trace of anger could not help but crawl up between his brows. Don't run, you can't escape. The city lord's speed was too fast, and he had already closed most of the distance. At this moment, he was only a few miles away from Qin Feiyang. A distance of a few miles, for experts like them, was only a matter of a few blinks of an eye. Soon, the two of them, one in front and one behind, entered a glacier mountain range. In the mountain range, the ice peaks were like giant swords, standing tall and majestic. In the mountain stream, countless fierce beasts ran amok, their roars shaking the heavens. A few fierce beasts ran out to block the way, but they were all killed by Qin Feiyang with a wave of his hand. And now, the distance between the city lord and him was only about 100 meters. Shua. Qin Feiyang decisively stopped, stood above an ice peak, and turned to look at the city lord. The city lord also stopped and stood in the air with Qin Feiyang, saying, "Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want the city lord to do it? Do we have to do this?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Although this person was strong, he was still not a threat to him, because in the ancient castle, there were still Wolf King Fatso, and the recently subdued double-winged snow eagle. With this lineup, he was completely capable of counterattacking. But he had to consider it. Now he had already killed the two commanders of the Ice City. If he killed the city lord, then in the second area, he would really be the enemy of the whole world. Boom. But in the face of Qin Feiyang's question, the city lord of Ice City directly used practical actions to respond. The aura of the 9-star war sect erupted. Several nearby ice peaks that were more than 10,000 feet tall were directly shattered by the aura. This also meant that there was no room for negotiation. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said, "Then let's begin." Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, the city lord flashed and instantly landed in front of Qin Feiyang. His large hand shot out and slapped towards Qin Feiyang's head. The terrifying aura made Qin Feiyang's scalp go numb. Without the slightest hesitation, he retreated like lightning. But with his speed, how could he keep up with the city lord? Even if he activated the phantom step, the difference was too great. Swish. The city lord's figure moved, appearing behind him like a ghost, and slapped him on the back. Qin Feiyang also did not hesitate to activate the battle character secret art. Puff. This palm made Qin Feiyang's body almost fall apart. As he spat out a mouthful of blood, he crashed into the glacier below like a meteorite. Kacha. The glaciers within a radius of several miles were all broken by him. The fierce beasts in this area were even more dead and injured. Whiz. But very quickly, Qin Feiyang rushed out, his eyes flashing with bone-piercing killing intent. Previously, if he had not activated the battle character secret art, he would have died by now. And for those who wanted to kill him, he would never show mercy. He waved his hand. Fatso Wolf King and the winged snow eagle all appeared in an instant. "Kill him!" Qin Feiyang shouted coldly, his aura fully released, and took the lead to kill the city lord. Boom. Wolf King and Fatso did not say anything and directly activated their transformation state, their aura crazily soaring. Bullying with numbers? This is this emperor's strong suit. At the same time, the winged snow eagle also held excitedly and instantly returned to its original form. Following closely, it flapped its 4 huge wings, like a towering mountain, with an ear-piercing whistling sound, following behind Qin Feiyang, charging towards the city lord. This guy is indeed not a good bird. If it was a good bird, then it would be boring. That's true. Let's go and kill that bastard. Chapter 767. Looking at the 2 men and 2 beasts, the Ice City Lord's pupils couldn't help but shrink. Qin Feiyang, Wolf King and Fatso, although they were only 5-star War Master, the aura they emitted was quite impressive. As for the dual-winged snow eagle, it was a genuine 9-star War Master. He really didn't expect that this young man who had risen out of thin air would have such a strong foundation. You must be scared. The dual-winged snow eagle chuckled. And in front of Qin Feiyang, it extended its sharp claws and grabbed towards the city lord's head. Humph! The city lord snorted from his nose, quickly raised his arm, and punched towards the dual-winged snow eagle's sharp claws. Boom! The fist and the sharp claws collided, giving birth to a terrifying wave of air. One man and one beast were forced back at the same time. Kill! At this time, Qin Feiyang's group and the Wolf King also arrived one after another. Qin Feiyang's index finger pointed in the air, and the fourth style of the ruins technique roared out, bringing with it an apocalyptic aura as it crazily attacked. Wolf King and Fatso were even more violent. They directly used their fists to attack the city lord from both sides. They were currently in a state of transformation. Fatso's dragon transformation art was a perfect battle art, coupled with his cultivation of a 5-star war master. The power of his fist was comparable to that of a 9-star war master. Although Wolf King's berserk fury was only a superior battle art, its physical body was naturally stronger than a human's. Therefore, it could also display the strength of a 9-star war master. However, in the face of the storm-like attacks of the 2 men and 1 wolf, the city lord of Ice City did not panic in the slightest. With a wave of his hand, a stream of battle chi whizzed out and blasted towards the 4th style of the ruins technique. Following closely, he raised his hands again and clenched them into fists. Without dodging, he collided with Fatso and Wolf King's fists. Boom! A loud explosion rang out in the sky. Destructive waves of air, with the few of them as the center, surged out in all directions like mountains and seas. Puff! In the meantime, Qin Feiyang, Wolf King, and Fatso all spat out mouthfuls of blood, their faces pale. I'll let you see what it means to destroy everything. Cold light flashed in the eyes of the city lord of Ice City. Then he performed a mysterious footwork, and his speed suddenly skyrocketed. Whoosh! He landed in front of Qin Feiyang and slapped his palm on Qin Feiyang's chest. Puff! Qin Feiyang's body shook, and like a meteorite, he shot toward the glacier below. The disdain in the city lord's eyes deepened. Next, he took another step forward and appeared behind Wolf King in an instant. His large hand slapped down on Wolf King's head. Roar! Wolf King howled in pain and uncontrollably fell towards the glacier below. Damn his speed! Fatso was dumbfounded. With the cultivation of the 9-star war sect, coupled with the auxiliary battle arts, who would dare to compete with this person in terms of speed? Without hesitation, Fatso turned around and fled. Humph! The city lord snorted and chased after him like lightning, punching Fatso's back. Puff! Fatso spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed into the glacier below. Damn, why are they all good-looking but useless fellows? The dual-winged snow eagle looked at Qin Feiyang, and the other 2 with disdain in its eyes. You're not that useful either. The city lord laughed coldly. With a wave of his hand, a huge golden palm appeared out of nowhere. Following closely, the huge palm landed with a loud bang on the dual-winged snow eagle's huge body. Immediately, blood dyed the sky. Chirp! The dual-winged snow eagle wailed and smashed into the glacier. The glacier, with a radius of tens of miles, was directly razed to the ground by the 2 men and 2 beasts. The city lord is indeed strong. Aren't you talking nonsense? No matter what, the city lord is still a 9-star war sect, and has mastered all sorts of superior battle arts. No matter how heaven-defying Qin Feiyang and his accomplices are, they are definitely not a match for the city lord. The people who caught up from behind looked at the city lord, who had displayed his might, with admiration. Boom! Swish! Suddenly, accompanied by a few loud sounds, Qin Feiyang and the others rushed out from the ground and gathered in the sky. His entire body was dripping with blood. City lord, quickly kill them. That's right, they have already lost their minds and are inhumane. If we let them escape, who knows how many more people will be killed by them. Yes, we must bury them here. Seeing Qin Feiyang and the others appear, the crowd in the distance roared. Everyone's face was filled with intense hatred and disgust. Don't worry, as long as this city lord is here, none of them will be able to escape. The city lord smiled confidently, looked at the 2 men and 2 beasts, and said contemptuously, A group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals dare to be arrogant in front of this city lord. They are truly reckless. Oh my. They are really taking advantage of us. Wolf King screamed, looked at the two-winged snow eagle and laughed. Little eagle, he said that we are shrimp soldiers and crab generals. What do you think we should do? Nonsense. Of course we should kill him. I will take the lead. You guys take the rear. The two-winged snow eagle's eyes flashed coldly, and it flapped its huge wings and rushed toward the city lord. You are overestimating yourself. The city lord of Ice City smiled disdainfully, and with a mysterious step, he went toward the two-winged snow eagle. Its speed was as fast as lightning. Do you think that you have the right to look down on others just because you took advantage of me? Kid, you are too naive. Competing with me in terms of speed, you are just asking for humiliation. The two-winged snow eagle sneered, and two huge light wings rose into the air, instantly embedding themselves on its back. It was its fighting soul. Swoosh. As soon as the light wings appeared, its speed suddenly doubled, and it was much faster than the city lord. What? The city lord was shocked, and without hesitation he raised his arm and golden fighting chi burst out. Crash. The golden fighting chi turned into a huge wave, drowning the sky and crazily pouncing towards the two-winged snow eagle. Kid, are you afraid? The two-winged snow eagle chuckled. Although its body was huge, it was very agile. Like a ghost, it dodged the bombardment of the golden wave and appeared behind the city lord. Next, its hard and sharp claws quickly smashed towards the city lord's back. Puff. The city lord was sent flying on the spot, blood spurting out of his mouth. What's going on? Why is the city lord injured? The crowd in the distance was dumbstruck. Good chance. But at the same time, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up, and he rushed over aggressively with Wolf King and Fatso. After rushing up, the two men and one wolf did not show the slightest bit of mercy and directly bombarded him. Ah! Immediately, the city lord screamed again and again. In his heart, he was also ashamed and angry. Not only was he a 9-star war sect, he was also the city lord of Ice City. It could even be said that he was the person in charge of the second area. But at this moment he was actually being beaten up by 3 5-star war sects in public. Where was his face? How would he manage this place in the future? Boom. All of a sudden, a shocking aura rushed out from his body. Retreat. Qin Feiyang hurriedly shouted. The two men and one wolf retreated to the front of the two-winged snow eagle and looked at the city lord in shock. At this moment, the city lord was bruised and swollen. The clothes on his body were also torn to shreds. His originally jet-black hair was now like a chicken's nest. He looked to be in a sorry state. He stood in the air, staring at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, I swear, all of you will die soon. Boom. As soon as he finished, a dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from his back. Within the golden light, there was an axe floating in the air. That axe was the size of a palm, as if it was cast from gold, emitting a terrifying sharpness. Battle soul? The two men and two beasts looked at each other in dismay. Wasn't it just a battle soul? What was there to be arrogant about? Innate ability, splitting heaven and earth. The next moment, the city lord roared towards the sky, and the axe actually rose in the wind. In that instant, a giant golden axe that was hundreds of feet long appeared out of nowhere. Following that, the giant axe chopped down from the sky, its sharpness toppling mountains and overturning seas, tearing apart the mountains and rivers below. The power is not bad, but isn't it a bit too exaggerated to say that it can split heaven and earth? If the name isn't a bit domineering, would it be able to scare us? Tisk, to put it nicely, it's called domineering. To put it bluntly, it's called a fox borrowing the tiger's might. Facing the giant axe that was crazily chopping down, Fatso, Wolf King, and the two-winged snow eagle were not the slightest bit nervous. Instead, they were still discussing with relish. Qin Feiyang, who was at the side, looked at them helplessly. Couldn't they tell that the city lord had already started to fight with his life on the line? Looking at the city lord, who was gritting his teeth as he stared at Fatso and Wolf King, he was so angry that smoke was rising from his head. Even at this time he was still in the mood to chat. This was simply humiliating him. Ants go to hell. The city lord roared. The speed of the giant golden axe suddenly increased, and like a graceful swan, it furiously chopped towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Fatso sneered, turned his head to look at Wolf King and said angrily, "Brother Wolf, he actually called us ants, can you bear it?" "Of course not." Wolf King snorted coldly. A dazzling golden light emerged from behind him, and rushed into the sky. The void, the earth, and the sky here suddenly seemed to be plated with a layer of gold foil. Boom. Following that, a boundless divine might spread out in a frenzy across the entire area. "What's that?" The city lord's gaze froze. The crowd in the distance was also surprised. Even the double-winged snow eagle beside the Wolf King was filled with bewilderment. The next moment, under everyone's gaze, a golden beast shadow appeared in the sky. Its head was in the sky and its feet were on the ground, like a beast god descending. Everyone present felt an indescribable fear in their hearts. "You dare to activate your fighting soul in front of me? I have to say, you're really brave." Wolf King sneered and suddenly shouted, "Talent superpower deprive." The golden beast shadow immediately opened its mouth. In this place, a fierce wind suddenly blew, sweeping hundreds of miles of the sky. The golden axe immediately flew uncontrollably towards the golden beast shadow's mouth. "What's going on?" The city lord was shocked. The fighting soul was not under his control. Although the crowd in the distance did not know what was going on, they could imagine that the city lord must have suffered a great loss, so their hearts were filled with horror. The double-winged snow eagle was also puzzled. It looked at the golden beast shadow, turned its head to look at Fatso and asked, "What's the use of its fighting soul?" "Great use." Fatso smiled mysteriously. The double-winged snow eagle was stunned and hurriedly said, "Can you explain it clearly?" "Sure." Brother Wolf's fighting soul is the nemesis of all fighting souls, because it has a terrible ability, deprive. Chapter 768. Deprive. The dual-winged snow eagle was even more puzzled, and couldn't help but get angry. He looked at Fatso and said, "Can you not keep me in suspense and say it all at once?" Fatso chuckled and said, "It means that Brother Wolf's fighting soul can deprive other living beings of their fighting soul, including you and me. Once it is deprived, the fighting soul will disappear forever." "What?" The dual-winged snow eagle's eyes widened. How could there be such a fighting soul in this world? "Don't doubt it. Back then, you were very wise to choose to follow the boss. Otherwise, you would have ended up like the city lord," Fatso said. The dual-winged snow eagle looked at the golden beast shadow again, its eyes filled with shock. Was this Wolf King's strength? Although it had been getting along well with Wolf King these few days, it had always looked down on Wolf King in its heart. It was a 9-star war sect. Wolf King was only a 5-star war sect, a full 4 small realms lower than it. This was the first factor. The second factor was that it had a heaven-defying fighting soul that could stack speed. As for Wolf King, although it didn't know what Wolf King's fighting soul was before, it didn't think that it would surpass it. But it never thought that Wolf King's fighting soul would be so terrifying. Fatso wasn't exaggerating at all. This golden beast shadow was the nemesis of all fighting souls. The conversation between the man and the beast was not deliberately concealed. The city lord heard it clearly. In his heart, a storm was raging. Moreover, he immediately began to disperse his fighting soul. But it was too late. The golden axe was like a stream of light, disappearing into the golden beast's wide mouth. "Damn it." The city lord cursed and hurriedly looked into his chi-si, wanting to verify if what Fatso said was true. He didn't know if he didn't look, but after looking, his face turned pale. Inside his chi-si, the fighting soul had actually disappeared, as if it had never appeared. How could this be? How could there be such an outrageous fighting soul in this world? He muttered to himself, falling into despair. Whether it was a beast or a human, the fighting soul was the strongest trump card. In other words, losing the fighting soul was equivalent to a drop in one's strength. In the past, in the same realm, he dared to claim supremacy. But now, anyone with a fighting soul would be able to kill him in seconds. This kind of earth-shaking change was truly hard for him to accept. It was more painful than death. "How is it?" Now let's talk again. Who exactly are the shrimp soldiers and crab generals? Wolf King said proudly. Bastards, I'll kill you. The city lord abruptly raised his head and stared fixedly at the two humans and two beasts. His eyes seemed to be dyed red with blood, and a shocking murderous aura gushed out from his body. With a fierce roar, he tore through the sky and madly pounced on Qin Feiyang and the others. Beat him up. Wolf King waved its claws. The previous situation happened again. The double-winged snow eagle flew over like a bolt of lightning, relying on its overwhelming speed to severely injure the city lord. Next, Fatso and Wolf King rushed forward, punching and kicking the city lord, beating him down on the spot. Ah! Miserable screams resounded through the clouds, filled with anger and unwillingness. This time Qin Feiyang did not make a move. He had been watching coldly from the side. Seeing that the city lord had been beaten beyond recognition and had lost his human form, he said with a faint smile, "All right, just kill him." Boom. However, before he could finish his words, 3 terrifying auras suddenly descended. The next moment, in the air above, 3 figures appeared out of thin air. They were 2 men and a woman, all of them middle-aged. The aura emitted from their bodies was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. When they saw the miserable state of the city lord, the 3 of them were furious on the spot. They rushed down like lightning and charged towards Fatso and Wolf King. You didn't come earlier or later, but you came at this time. You really know how to join in the fun. Wolf King cursed angrily and quickly retreated. Fatso and the double-winged snow eagle's expressions also changed. They immediately retreated and joined up with Qin Feiyang. The aura of these 3 people was almost on par with the city lord. In other words, the 3 of them were all 9-star war sect. With the foundation of Qin Feiyang and the others, the 3 9-star war sects were actually not without the strength to fight. However, if they really fought, it would be meaningless. It would be a waste of time. Thought about it. Qin Feiyang still chose to retreat. He jumped up onto the back of the double-winged snow eagle and shouted, "Let's go!" Just as he spoke, Fatso and Wolf King also jumped up and landed on the back of the double-winged snow eagle. Chirp! The double-winged snow eagle spread its 6 wings and tore through the air like lightning. The 3 of them did not chase after him. Instead, they landed beside the city lord and checked his injuries. A moment later, the middle-aged woman raised her head to look at the other 2 and said in a deep voice, "Both the Sea of Qi and the Sea of Consciousness have been shattered. The situation is not good." The 2 middle-aged men's gazes also darkened. One of them asked, "Can you save your life?" The middle-aged woman thought for a moment and said, "If there are Essence Soul Pill and Spirit Sea Pill, it should be possible." "Then quickly bring him back to the Ice City." The 3 of them immediately brought the city lord and rushed towards the Ice City. As for the people who were watching the battle from afar, they were unable to recover from their shock for a long time. They were all intimidated by the methods displayed by Qin Feiyang and the others. At the same time, above the glacier, the double-winged snow eagle was like a divine rainbow, moving as fast as lightning. About 100 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang looked behind him and laughed. "All right, you can stop now." The double-winged snow eagle braked and stopped in the air. The light wings on its back also quickly dissipated. Wolf King immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and said with dissatisfaction, "Actually, we don't need to run at all. We are indeed not afraid of the 3 9-star war sects, but even if we kill them, what's the point?" Qin Feiyang asked. Wolf King was startled. Thinking about it carefully, it didn't make any sense. At this time, Fatso waved his hand and said, "These are all small problems. What Fat Lord is most curious about is who are they?" Qin Feiyang, Wolf King, and the double-winged snow eagle also had a trace of doubt in their eyes. "Don't think about it." Fatso finally shook his head, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "What are we going to do next?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then said, "Let's cultivate for a while first, and then we'll enter the Ice City after the wind blows over." Shwa. Finished. With a wave of his hand, he led everyone into the castle. Fatso and Wolf King also immediately entered a state of cultivation. However, the double-winged snow eagle turned into the size of a palm, flapped its wings, and floated behind Qin Feiyang. as if it had something to say. After Qin Feiyang opened the iron box, he turned to look at it and laughed. Are you still thinking about the gate of potential? The double-winged snow eagle hurriedly nodded, its eyes filled with desire. You can't rush it. To open the gate of potential, you need the assistance of pressure. And with your cultivation, you need to at least use the holy aura. So you just have to wait patiently. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking with a smile, he turned around and began to copy the fourth stroke of the kill formula. Holy aura? The double-winged snow eagle was stunned. Was there an existence of the war saint level in the second area? Even if there was, they were not related to each other. Why would they help you? It seemed that it was basically hopeless to open the gate of potential. It sighed deeply and lay on the side, feeling very disappointed. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at it, shook his head and smiled. Don't worry, the Pill Pagoda Master in the second area is definitely a war saint. When the time comes, I will think of a way to get him to help. Really? The double-winged snow eagle immediately became spirited. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this, the double-winged snow eagle's eyes darted around. Suddenly, its eyes flashed and it said, Since I am not in the mood to cultivate right now, why don't I sneak into Hanbing City first and investigate the situation? Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, then laughed. That's fine too, be careful. After he finished speaking, he sent the double-winged snow eagle out. Time passed in a flash. For months passed. On this day, Qin Feiyang finally finished copying the fourth stroke. His cultivation had broken through to the 6-star War Master as he wished. And because he had crazily refined pills for 4 months a while ago and delayed his cultivation, Fatso and Wolf King had both stepped out of the 6-star War Master before him. The pangolin had also stepped into the 4-star War Master. Lu Hong had also broken through to the 2-star War Master. Now their overall strength had risen to another level. After exhaling a long breath, Qin Feiyang closed the 6-word divine arts and prepared to leave the castle. But at this time, Lu Hong opened her eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang. Can you bring me out with you? Qin Feiyang was startled and asked, Aren't you going to cultivate? Ever since my cultivation was crippled, I've been cultivating. I feel a little tired, so I want to go out and relax. Lu Hong laughed. Relax. Qin Feiyang looked at her deeply and shook his head. Do you think I'm that easy to fool? As if her lie had been seen through, Lu Hong lowered her head in embarrassment. I know you want to help me. Although you have already stepped into the 2-star War Master, you can't help me much in the face of the current situation and strong enemies. So you can stay here and cultivate peacefully. In the future, when your cultivation catches up to everyone, I will bring you out even if you don't ask. Qin Feiyang laughed. Lu Hong hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right. Actually, she was very disappointed in her heart. Before her cultivation was crippled, she could still accompany everyone and face all kinds of difficulties and dangers together. But now, she was like a national treasure that was protected by everyone. If it was someone else, they might still feel happy and warm. But she was different. She felt that all these years, she was like a cripple who couldn't do anything to help. Even if everyone encountered a life and death calamity, she could only watch helplessly. That kind of powerlessness made her feel very uncomfortable. At the same time, after Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he wanted to leave the castle, but looking at Lu Hong's current expression, he couldn't help but feel an indescribable emotion in his heart. He pondered for a moment. He smiled helplessly and nodded. All right, I'll take you for a stroll, but it's only limited to relaxing. All right. Lu Hong immediately stood up, sweeping away the haze from before, and a brilliant smile appeared on her face. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be absent-minded. Her exquisite and tall figure, her skin as white as jade, her sexy and full red lips, her eyes rippling with autumn waves, this little girl was becoming more and more charming, more and more enchanting. Lu Hong discovered that Qin Feiyang was staring at her, and her cheeks couldn't help but turn slightly red. She lowered her head, showing a bashful expression. When Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and noticed Lu Hong's expression, he wanted to slap himself a few times on the spot. What was he thinking? The atmosphere was awkward because of him. Chapter 769. Ice City. 4 months had passed, but Qin Feiyang's popularity did not decrease much. Everyone was still looking around. The security at the city gate was even tighter than before. Not far from the city gate, there was a forest. Qin Feiyang stood on a small hill, looking at the city gate, his brows furrowed. Of course. Now he had changed his appearance and lowered his cultivation to a 5-star combat emperor. Even his temperament and eyes had changed slightly. But facing the heaven's ice stone under the city gate, no matter how hard he tried to hide it, it was useless. Lu Hong stood at the side, looking at the city gate silently, as if thinking about something. Suddenly, she retracted her gaze and turned to Qin Feiyang, saying, "Didn't the double-winged snow eagle sneak into Ice City? Can you contact it?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. During this period of time, the double-winged snow eagle seemed to have disappeared from the world. From the moment it left until now, it had not appeared again. And the double-winged snow eagle did not have an image crystal, so Qin Feiyang had no way to contact it. So, he did not know whether the double-winged snow eagle was alive or dead, or where it was fooling around. Lu Hong was silent for a while, then smiled and said, "I have an idea." "What idea?" Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. "I can enter the city first. After I enter the city, I will give you the coordinates and you can directly teleport in." Lu Hong smiled. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. Why didn't he think of this idea? Currently, the people in the second area only knew about him, Fatso and Wolf King. As for Lu Hong, she had always been cultivating in the ancient castle, and had never shown her face. There was simply no one who knew about his relationship with Lu Hong. So, Lu Hong didn't need to worry about anything. She could enter Frost City with her real face. Looking at Qin Feiyang's expression, Lu Hong knew that Qin Feiyang had acquiesced. She smiled and said, "Then I will go." "Be careful," Qin Feiyang reminded. Lu Hong nodded and walked out of the forest. She walked towards the city gate at a leisurely pace. There shouldn't be any problem, right? Qin Feiyang glanced at the 4 guards in front of the city gate, and then looked at Lu Hong's back as he muttered to himself. Very soon, Lu Hong walked to the city gate. He curiously looked at the bounty poster, and walked into the city. Stop. However, just as she stepped into the city gate, a city guard suddenly stopped her. Qin Feiyang immediately raised his eyebrows and paid close attention to Lu Hong's situation. Lu Hong did not expect to be stopped. Puzzled, she looked at the guard and asked, "Is there a problem?" The guard looked at Lu Hong from head to toe and asked suspiciously, "Why haven't I seen you before?" "I rarely come to Ice City," Lu Hong replied with a smile. "Really?" The guard looked at her suspiciously. At this time, the other 3 guards also turned around and looked at Lu Hong. Vaguely, deep in the eyes of the 4, there was a trace of undetectable laughter. The guard who stopped Lu Hong suddenly said, "Miss, I'm sorry, but you have to come with us." "Why?" Lu Hong furrowed her brows. "I believe you also know that we are now arresting Qin Feiyang. And Qin Feiyang is insidious and cunning. It is very likely that he will bribe others to sneak into Ice City." The guard said. Lu Hong was stunned and asked, "You suspect me?" "Yes. But it's just a suspicion. After we find out your identity, we will naturally let you go." The guard nodded and said. Hearing this, Lu Hong was just a little dissatisfied on the surface, but she was surprised and suspicious in her heart. Did they see something? But it was not right. She had never appeared. How could these people know the relationship between her and Qin Feiyang? But what was the meaning of this guard stopping her? Did he have other intentions? At the same time, standing in the jungle, Qin Feiyang's eyes gradually became gloomy. Although he could not hear the conversation between Lu Hong and the guard, he could imagine that something bad must have happened after so long. "No, I can't let her continue to be in danger." Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. After taking a face-restoring pill, he turned into a stream of light and rushed out of the jungle. But he did not rush directly to Lu Hong. Standing in the sky outside the city, he looked coldly at Ice City and shouted, "Lord of Ice City, come out and accept your death." "Who is it?" The 4 guards were shocked and quickly looked up. When they saw Qin Feiyang, their faces suddenly changed. The others next to them were also shocked. And Ice City, in an instant, was in an uproar. This is Qin Feiyang's voice. He dares to openly provoke the Lord of Ice City. What does he want to do? One figure after another soared into the sky and gathered above the city. They looked at Qin Feiyang in bewilderment. At the same time, Qin Feiyang glanced at the crowd at the city gate. When he saw Lu Hong, he immediately winked at her. Lu Hong immediately understood. While the 4 guards were not paying attention, she quietly squeezed into the crowd and entered the city. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang also secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He sneered and said, I didn't expect the dignified city lord of Cold Ice City to be such a coward. After that, he turned around and quickly disappeared into the sky. His appearance was just to attract the attention of the 4 guards and create an opportunity for Lu Hong. Now Lu Hong had entered the city. Naturally, there was no need for him to continue to stay. Swish! Not long after Qin Feiyang left, 3 figures descended out of thin air in the sky above the city gate. They were the 2 men and 1 woman who suddenly appeared 4 months ago. The middle-aged woman glanced at the void and looked at the 4 guards. She frowned and said, Where is that little bastard? He has already left. The 4 guards replied respectfully, Damn little bastard. Sooner or later, I will skin you. The middle-aged woman's face was gloomy, and the killing intent in her eyes was undisguised. On the top of an ice mountain, Qin Feiyang stood against the wind, holding the image crystal in his hand. About half an hour later, the image crystal shone brightly. Qin Feiyang also smiled. A wisp of battle chi gushed out of his palm and merged into the image crystal. An illusory figure immediately appeared. It was Lu Hong. Qin Feiyang asked with a smile, Did you encounter any trouble later? No. Lu Hong smiled and gave the coordinates to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened a portal. The next moment, he appeared beside Lu Hong. It was a room about 10 meters wide. Although it was not big, it was very clean and tidy. In the corner, there were a few flower pots in full bloom. A faint floral fragrance filled the air. Where is this? Qin Feiyang asked. Lu Hong said, Fragrant Flowers Restaurant. According to Lu Hong, this restaurant was located in the central area of the city. It was the most high-end restaurant in Ice City. Usually, the people he entertained were all rich and powerful. However, the most important thing was that the Fragrant Flowers restaurant was very close to the City Lord Mansion and the Pill Pagoda. Lu Hong walked to the window and opened it. 2 huge buildings immediately entered Qin Feiyang's sight. Qin Feiyang walked over and looked up. One of the buildings was an ancient stone pagoda. It was covered in a layer of ice and emitted a cold aura. The ancient pagoda was located in the center of a square. It was like a king looking down on all directions. In the 4 directions of the square, there was a tall stone tablet erected. 2 bold and eye-catching words were engraved on each of the stone tablets. Pill Pagoda. Opposite the Pill Pagoda was the City Lord Mansion. In terms of scale, the City Lord Mansion was several times larger than the Pill Pagoda. Majestic palaces were scattered like stars in the sky, crisscrossing each other. The guards stood upright like iron pines growing in the snow, giving off a bone-chilling coldness. The distance between the Pill Pagoda and the City Lord Mansion was at most about 10,000 feet. Qin Feiyang suddenly shivered and said, Did you notice that the temperature here is lower than outside the city? Yes. I was wondering about that too. Sky Thunder City, because of the Sky Thunder Flame, the entire city is very warm. But Ice City is colder than outside the city. Could it be related to the alchemy fire here? Lu Hong said. Qin Feiyang said, I don't dare to jump to conclusions before seeing the alchemy fire here. After saying that, he seemed to think of something and asked, Why did the city guard stop you? I don't know. Lu Hong shook her head and explained the situation in a simple and clear manner. After hearing that, Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and frowned. That's not right. When I entered Ice City last time, they didn't interrogate me. If it weren't for the ice under the city gate that was filled with Heaven's Eye stones, I could have sneaked in. Lu Hong said in surprise. Do you mean that they really have other motives? Most likely. After all, there are countless people entering and leaving Ice City every day. How could they remember who is who? Just now they didn't check anyone else but you. There must be something wrong, Qin Feiyang said. What is it? Lu Hong asked. Ah. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, looked Lu Hong up and down for a while, and said teasingly, maybe they like you. Like me? Lu Hong was slightly stunned, and her face suddenly turned red. She said angrily, don't talk nonsense, okay? Qin Feiyang laughed. Dong. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Lu Hong looked at the door suspiciously. It was her first time in Ice City and she was unfamiliar with the place. Who would come to find her? No matter who it is, you have to be careful, Qin Feiyang exhorted through voice transmission, and immediately left for the ancient castle. Lu Hong took a deep breath, walked to the door, and slowly opened it. She saw two men standing outside the door. One of them was slightly plump and middle-aged. He was wearing a black robe, and there was always a smile on his chubby face. The other was a young man in his 20s. He was about 1.75 meters tall and was quite thin. He was wearing a purple coat. His facial features were chiseled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He gave people a feeling of coldness. Lu Hong looked at the purple-clothed young man suspiciously, then looked at the plump middle-aged man and asked, Housemaster, what's the matter? The plump middle-aged man was the housemaster of the Fragrant Flowers house. I'm fine. It's our young city lord who is in trouble. The housemaster pointed at the purple-clothed young man and looked at Lu Hong with a smile. Young city lord. Lu Hong looked at the purple-clothed young man in surprise. The purple-clothed young man had been looking at Lu Hong since he opened the door, and there was an imperceptible light in his eyes. Chapter 770. Both of you are important figures in Ice City, and I'm just a weak woman. How would I dare to be alone with you? What's more, if a woman like me is alone with two men, people will talk about me behind my back. So if you have something to say it here. Lu Hong's eyes flashed, and she declined tactfully. Hearing this, the purple-clad young man raised his eyebrows, looking a little dissatisfied, but he didn't lose his temper. Miss, you're really considerate. But there are some things that can't be said here. Because if others hear it, it'll be even worse for you, the purple-clad young man said with a meaningful smile. Lu Hong looked at the purple-clad young man suspiciously. Seeing that the purple-clad young man didn't intend to explain, she gradually lost her patience. Since it's not convenient for you to say it, then don't. This way, please. Her face turned cold, and she asked them to leave. Oh, you're taking advantage of me? The purple-clothed youth smiled coldly. He pushed Lu Hong aside and walked in a grandiose manner. Little girl, don't be so hot-tempered. After all, this is Ice City. The housemaster of Fragrant Flower Tower chuckled and followed him into the room. Lu Hong's face darkened. It was obvious that these two people didn't come with good intentions. She closed the door, turned to the two and said, Now can you say it? The purple-clad young man didn't say anything. He sat in front of the tea table, leaned on the chair, and crossed his legs, looking very arrogant. The housemaster of Fragrant Flower Tower also sat next to the purple-clad young man like a follower, making tea for him. Soon, the tea was ready, and the aroma assailed their nostrils. The housemaster washed a teacup, picked up the teapot, and poured tea, then respectfully handed it to the purple-clad young man. The purple-clad young man took the teacup and tasted it leisurely, as if Lu Hong didn't exist. Lu Hong's beautiful brows furrowed tighter. The tea in Fragrant Flower Tower is delicious. After a while, after drinking the tea, the purple-clad young man praised with a smile. The housemaster of Fragrant Flower Tower smiled. As long as you like it. Disgusting. Looking at the flattering smile on the OP's face, Lu Hong could not help but feel nauseous. As a human being, if he didn't even have the most basic self-respect, then what was the difference between him and a beast? The purple-clothed young man finally put down his teacup and raised his head to look at Lu Hong. He said with a smile, Not long ago, the guards of the city came to report to me that you were very suspicious. Lu Hong's heart trembled and she said, Then young city lord, tell me, how am I suspicious? Don't be hasty. Let me finish slowly. In the beginning, I was also skeptical. However, now that I've seen you in person, I truly feel that you're extremely suspicious, the purple-clad young man said. Then go and investigate. If you find evidence, I'll let you do whatever you want with it. If you can't, don't harass me, Lu Hong said impatiently. The housemaster of the Fragrant Flowers house frowned. She stood up and looked at Lu Hong, shouting, "You're too bold. Do you know who you're talking to?" "Of course I know. I also know that you're not worthy of being a human." Lu Hong sneered. "What did you say?" The housemaster clenched her fists, her eyes flashing with a shocking cold light. "What? You can't hold it in anymore and want to make a move?" Lu Hong sneered. "Bitch, you're courting death." The housemaster took a step forward. His big hand was like an eagle's claw, grabbing towards Lu Hong. "Trash." Lu Hong smiled disdainfully. This person was only a 2-star battle ancestor. Not to mention Qin Feiyang and the others in the ancient castle. Even she had the ability to directly erase him. But at this moment, the purple-clothed young man stood up, grabbed the arm of the housemaster of the Fragrant Flowers house, and said unhappily, "You're a man after all. How can you attack a woman?" The housemaster was stunned for a moment, then quickly nodded and smiled apologetically. "Young city lord is right. I was rude." "That's right. Men can't bully women no matter what, right?" The purple-clothed young man laughed. "Yes, yes, yes." The housemaster nodded submissively, smiling fawningly. The purple-clothed young man smiled and sat on the chair again. He looked at Lu Hong and asked curiously, "Can you tell me why you said that he's not worthy of being a human?" "Sure. Since you're curious, I don't mind saying a few more words. Other restaurants will basically protect the privacy of their customers. No matter who asks, they won't reveal it. But what about him? As the housemaster of the Fragrant Flowers house, not only did he not do that, but he also helped the villain do evil. He doesn't have any professional ethics at all. Tell me, is he worthy of being a human?" Lu Hong sneered. "What a glib tongue." The purple-clothed young man clapped his hands and cheered. Then he said playfully, "What you said makes sense. But it's different here. This Fragrant Flowers house is my family's business, and he's just a manager. If I want to find out about your whereabouts, he naturally won't dare to hide it." Lu Hong suddenly understood. "So he's just a dog raised by your family? Bastard." Hearing this, the housemaster clenched his fists tightly. His lungs were about to explode from anger. The purple-clothed young man glanced at the housemaster. Then he looked at Lu Hong and sighed. "This is your fault. It's only right for him to compliment me. After all, I'm his master. But if you say that about him, it's the same as scolding me. You're giving me a headache." As the purple-clothed young man spoke, he revealed a very difficult expression. Lu Hong frowned and said, "Don't be so sarcastic. Just say it clearly. What exactly do you want?" The purple-clothed young man smiled faintly and slowly drank a mouthful of tea. That arrogant look made Lu Hong want to slap him. After drinking the tea and putting down the teacup, the purple-clothed young man said, "Right now I suspect that you're Qin Feiyang's accomplice. I'm in cahoots with him from the start." Lu Hong sneered inwardly. However, she definitely didn't dare to say this out loud. She said angrily, "Don't slander me. Don't be agitated. I'm just suspecting. Of course, if you can't satisfy me, this suspicion will definitely become the truth in the end," the purple-clothed young man said with a smile. "What do you mean?" Lu Hong was stunned. "What I mean is that you have to satisfy my needs. Otherwise, even if you're not Qin Feiyang's accomplice, as long as I say the word, you'll become his accomplice. Do you know what will happen to you if you become his accomplice?" The purple-clothed young man looked at Lu Hong with a playful expression. Lu Hong's eyes darkened. She said with disgust, "So you're beating around the bush because you want to abuse your power for personal gain. Don't make it sound so bad. In this ice city, I'm the king. There's nothing I can't get if I want it." The purple-clothed young man smiled proudly. "I've seen a lot of playboys, but this is the first time I've seen someone as arrogant and conceited as you." Lu Hong sneered. This person was about the same age as Qin Feiyang, but in terms of temperament, it was like heaven and earth. "You, forget it. I'll just take it that you're jealous of my identity and status." The purple-clothed young man was very angry, but for some reason he suppressed it. Jealous? Lu Hong smiled. She had never been jealous of Qin Feiyang, the son of the great Qin Empire's emperor, let alone a mere son of a city lord. Moreover, she had seen all kinds of big shots in the years she had followed Qin Feiyang. Even if it was just a disciple of the Divine Hall, he would be much stronger than this person. She didn't want to waste time talking nonsense and said indifferently, "Tell me, what do you want me to fulfill?" The purple-clothed young man said with a smile, "This is a very simple request for you women." Lu Hong's beautiful eyes flashed with a cold light, because she had vaguely guessed what this person wanted. The purple-clothed young man took a sip of tea and looked at Lu Hong again, his eyes suddenly bursting with a strong possessiveness. Then, he stretched out a finger and said, "1 month. As long as you can accompany me for a month and serve me well, I'll let you go." Hearing this, Lu Hong's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of dense killing intent. However, on her cheeks, a bright smile climbed up and said, "Why don't I understand? Can you explain it a little more clearly?" If it was Fatso now, facing Lu Hong's abnormal attitude, he would definitely not dare to speak. Because he knew Lu Hong, the current Lu Hong was on the verge of rage. And Lu Hong, although usually very docile and considerate, but once she was angered, the consequences were unimaginable. However, the purple-clothed young man didn't understand Lu Hong's temper. "Other women try every means to please me, and some even take the initiative to lie on my bed, but I don't care," the purple-clothed young man said proudly, but before he finished, Lu Hong laughed and said, "So you can take a fancy to me, and I have to thank you? What do you think?" The purple-clothed young man asked back, and couldn't help but reveal a trace of a lewd smile on his face. "Me?" Lu Hong pursed her lips and smiled, walking towards the purple-clothed young man. Her eyes were charming, as if she was going to take the initiative to offer herself. The purple-clothed young man was even more proud, and winked at the housemaster. The housemaster understood instantly, with an ambiguous smile, turned around and walked out, and closed the door tightly. After the housemaster left, the purple-clothed young man also opened his arms, smiling, waiting for the beauty to enter his arms. Soon, Lu Hong stood in front of the purple-clothed young man, and there was only half a meter between them. Lu Hong smiled and said, "Do you know?" "What?" the purple-clothed young man asked. Lu Hong said, "Last time there was someone who came to tease me like you. Guess what happened in the end?" The purple-clothed young man frowned and said in surprise, "Could it be that you have already been?" Lu Hong laughed and said, "He didn't take advantage of me at all." "That's good." The purple-clothed young man heaved a sigh of relief. If it was a broken shoe, then it would be disgusting. He asked, "What happened in the end?" Lu Hong looked at him strangely. This person didn't look stupid. Why was he so slow? In the end, Lu Hong pursed her lips and laughed. Suddenly, she raised her leg and kicked the purple-clothed young man's crotch. Oh, how could the purple-clothed young man have thought that Lu Hong would suddenly kick him? On the spot, his eggs broke. He bent his body and covered his lower body, letting out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Blood flowed from his hands and dripped onto the ground. It was a shocking sight. This is his end, and also your end. Chapter 771. You vicious woman. Hearsay. The young man in purple was trembling both physically and mentally. He looked up at Lu Hong and shouted hysterically while enduring the pain. "To deal with a scum like you, I naturally have to use extreme means." Lu Hong sneered. "Bitch, just you wait. My father will not let you go. There will be no place for you in the second zone." The young man in purple looked at her with hatred, and turned to run towards the door. "I haven't said anything yet. How dare you leave?" Lu Hong's eyes were cold. She stepped in front of the young man in purple and slapped him. Slap. The young man in purple was slapped away and hit the tea table beside him. With a crack, the tea table was smashed. Blood was spurting out of his mouth. Half of his face was swollen like a pig's head. Clang. But suddenly, the door was knocked open. The owner of Fragrant Flowers Tower rushed in anxiously. When he saw the blood all over the floor and the miserable condition of the young man in purple, his face changed color. He stared at Lu Hong in shock and anger and shouted, "What did you do to the young city lord?" "Nothing much, I just crippled his manhood," Lu Hong said lightly. "What?" The owner of Fragrant Flowers Tower was shocked. He looked at the young man in purple who was lying on the floor and howling in pain. His face was pale. The city lord only had one son. He usually treated him like a treasure. If the city lord knew that the young city lord was destroyed in Fragrant Flowers Tower, he, the owner of Fragrant Flowers Tower, would also suffer. "I can't let this bitch leave." The owner of Fragrant Flowers Tower was shocked. He suddenly looked up and stared at Lu Hong like a mad beast. If this woman escaped, he would not be able to keep his life, let alone suffer. Boom. He stepped out and bent his 5 fingers like an eagle's claw to grab Lu Hong's arm. Humph. Lu Hong snorted and was about to attack. But at this moment, a white figure appeared in front of Lu Hong out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang. A cold light flickered in his eyes as he stretched out his arm and grabbed the housemaster's wrist. Crack. Immediately after, he only used a little bit of force, and the housemaster's technique was crushed, causing blood to gush out. The heart-wrenching pain caused the tower master to cry out in pain. What's the situation? At this moment, the guests in the main hall and the various private rooms were all looking at the room Qin Feiyang, and the others were in with bewilderment. Previously, it was the young city lord screams, and now it was the tower master screams. Who was committing murder in that room? Who would have the guts? One had to know. Whether it was the young city governor, or the housemaster of the Fragrant Flowers Tower. They were both at the top of the pyramid in the 2nd district. Who would dare to touch them? Everyone was curious, but no one dared to go up. However, the news had already spread. More and more people rushed towards the floral fragrance house, including the guards of the Ice City. Inside the room, regarding the sudden appearance of Qin Feiyang, the OP was a little confused at first. But after seeing Qin Feiyang's real face, he completely forgot the pain and asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" Qin Feiyang glanced at Lu Hong and said with a smile, "Since she's here, I'm naturally here too." "What?" The OP's face changed and he looked at Lu Hong and said gloomily, "You're really his accomplice?" Lu Hong glanced at him disdainfully, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked timidly, "You won't blame me, will you?" Because of her, Qin Feiyang would definitely not be able to continue lurking. "Silly girl, you've been bullied by them. I can't wait to be angry. How can I blame you? In the future, if you meet such scumbags again, just do it. If the sky falls, I'll carry it for you," Qin Feiyang said. Lu Hong felt warm in her heart. Now, the feeling in her heart was even more obvious. One was mature, steady, and responsible. The other was relying on his father to commit crimes. They were both young people, but why was the difference so big? While the two of them were conversing, the housemaster of the Fragrant Flower House tiptoed toward the door. 4 months ago, the battle between Qin Feiyang and the city lord had already spread throughout the 2nd district, so he naturally knew about it. Even the city lord of the 9-star battle sect was no match for this group of people, let alone him, a 2-star battle sect. Therefore, he took advantage of the time when Qin Feiyang were talking to sneak away. However, although Qin Feiyang were talking, they had been paying attention to him. Seeing that the door was close at hand, the OP was ready to rush out in one go. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at him and chuckled. "Want to leave? I'll fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished, killing intent surged in his eyes as he took a step forward and slapped the back of the OP. Ah! With a scream, the OP was sent flying, blood gushing out of his mouth. Bang! Crack! In the end, like a meteorite, he landed in the lobby. Several chairs and tables were smashed into pieces on the spot. OP! The sudden turn of events left the guests in the lobby a little confused. But when they came to their senses, they immediately swarmed forward and surrounded the city lord, looking at him in shock and bewilderment. "He's dead." Suddenly, someone exclaimed. Bang! In an instant, everyone's minds began to rumble, as if a sudden clap of thunder had exploded. Stormy waves were surging in their hearts. They actually killed the city lord. Who was so bold? At that moment, everyone in the restaurant looked up in unison and saw Qin Feiyang standing in front of the railing. It's him. Isn't he outside the city? Why is he in the floral fragrance restaurant? Everyone present was glaring at him, full of shock and bewilderment. The restaurant fell into dead silence. At this moment, Lu Hong also dragged the purple-robed youth out of the room and came to Qin Feiyang's side. Who is she? Everyone looked at Lu Hong again. Get out of the way, get out of the way. Suddenly, a shout sounded outside the restaurant. Immediately afterward, a group of guards with sharp weapons in their hands ran in fiercely. The leader looked at the body of the OP and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "You're courting death." Ha! Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and grabbed the neck of the purple-robed youth. Like a little chick, he hung in the air above the lobby. Young city lord. The group of guards changed their expressions. The leader of the guards said angrily, "If you don't want to die, let go of the young city lord immediately." Qin Feiyang joked, "Didn't you just say that I'm courting death?" The guard said gloomily, "If you don't let go of the young city lord, I promise you will never walk out of the floral fragrance restaurant alive." "Just by you?" Qin Feiyang laughed. "Of course they can't, but we can." Accompanied by a cold voice, 2 men and a woman rushed into the restaurant like lightning. Standing in front of the group of guards, they looked up at Qin Feiyang coldly. "It's you." Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 of them and asked puzzledly, "You've come to help the city lord again and again. I'm curious, what's the relationship between you and him?" But before his voice died away, the purple-robed youth shouted, "Mother, save me." "Mother?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Don't be afraid. I'll come to save you right away." At the same time, the middle-aged woman looked at the purple-robed youth and comforted him. Then she looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Let him go, and I'll leave your body intact." "I see." Qin Feiyang showed a look of understanding. He looked at the 2 middle-aged men and said, "She's the wife of the city lord, so it's natural for her to help the city lord. What about you? Are you the illegitimate son of the city lord?" "Illegitimate son?" Lu Hong was slightly stunned and burst out laughing. The others in the restaurant also looked at each other. The 2 of them looked older than the city lord. How could they be the illegitimate son of the city lord? This bastard must have done it on purpose. The 2 middle-aged men also had gloomy expressions. They were just friends with the city lord, but they were close. But he said they were the illegitimate sons of the city lord? Wasn't this a blatant attempt to humiliate them? Isn't it? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He glanced at the others in the restaurant and said with a smile, "Can anyone introduce them to me? Is this guy here to make fun of us?" Everyone's face twitched. However, someone really did introduce them to him. It was said that these 2 people were the leaders of 2 super tribes. They were the Black King tribe and the Quicksand tribe. The overall strength of the 2 tribes was the strongest in the second area. But there was another tribe that was strong enough to compete with the 2 tribes. This tribe was called the Qingyuan tribe. And the leader of the tribe was the mother of the young man in purple. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang understood that the young man in purple did have the capital to be a playboy. His father was the city lord of Ice City. His mother was the leader of a super tribe. Although in his eyes, the identity of the 2 people was nothing, but in the second area, it was enough to dominate. Then, Qin Feiyang glanced at the 3 people, his eyes flickering as if he was thinking about something. Suddenly, he said, "I'm curious to ask, do you have alchemy fire in your tribe?" "What do you mean?" The 3 people frowned. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Answer me truthfully and I'll let him go right away." "Yes." The middle-aged woman nodded. "What grade?" Qin Feiyang asked. "5th grade." The middle-aged woman said. "5th grade?" Qin Feiyang frowned and suddenly lost interest. Now, his 5th grade alchemy fire was enough. What he wanted was the 6th grade alchemy fire. Although the 5th grade alchemy fire snatched from the temple had not been erased, and could not upgrade the nether devil flame to the 6th grade, he had to be prepared in advance. But now it seemed that it was not easy to get 3 kinds of 6th grade alchemy fire, because it was already obvious. Even the alchemy fire of the 3 super tribes was only the 5th grade. Then in the second area, there was definitely no 6th grade alchemy fire. No. But thinking of this, Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly lit up. The 3 super tribes did not have it, but it did not mean that the Pill Pagoda did not have it. The Heavenly Thunder Flame was the 6th grade, then the alchemy fire in the Pill Pagoda of Ice City must be at least the 6th grade. But soon, he gave up this idea. It was so difficult to snatch the Heavenly Thunder Flame, let alone the alchemy fire here. It was better to find other alchemy fires. Seeing that Qin Feiyang did not intend to let go of the young man in purple, the middle-aged woman gradually lost her patience and said gloomily, "I have already answered you, now should you keep your promise?" "Well, I'll give it back to you." Qin Feiyang laughed. Crack. His 5 fingers suddenly tightened, and the throat of the young man in purple was crushed on the spot. "Catch it." Then, Qin Feiyang loosened his hand, and the young man in purple fell down. What? Kill him? Everyone was dumbfounded. He actually killed her son in front of the city lord's wife. This was simply a naked provocation. At the same time, Chapter 772. She knew that this Qin Feiyang was very bold. Otherwise, for months ago, he wouldn't have dared to kill the 2 commanders of the Ice City in front of the city lord outside the city. But it was different then. Only the city lord was there. And now they had 3 9-star war sect present. Yet they still dared to be so arrogant? Even to the point of directly killing her son. It was simply unforgivable. Boom. Her aura exploded as she leaped up and caught the purple-clothed youth. Looking at that pale face and those eyes that died with grievances, the killing intent in her heart couldn't be restrained. Swish. She silently returned to the ground and handed the purple-clothed youth to the guards behind her. Immediately after, she suddenly raised her head and stared at Qin Feiyang and said, "Today, even if you can go to heaven and earth, you won't be able to escape from the Ice City." "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, waved his hand, rolled up Lu Hong, and forcefully broke through the roof of the fragrant flower building, and flew high into the sky. "Stop. Don't even think about escaping." Seeing this, the middle-aged woman and the other 2 leaders roared at the same time, and chased after Qin Feiyang like lightning. High up in the sky, Qin Feiyang stood against the wind. Lu Hong had already disappeared, and it was obvious that she had been sent to the castle by him. Swish! The 3 leaders rushed into the sky and formed a triangular formation, surrounding Qin Feiyang in the middle. Qin Feiyang looked around at the 3 of them and said with a faint smile, "If I really plan to escape, even if a dozen more 9-star war sect come, they won't be able to stop me." Arrogant. The leader of the Black Mountain tribe was furious, and a dark battle chi surged out from his body. Clang! In an instant, a sickle appeared above the head of the Black Mountain tribe leader. The sickle was pitch black and huge, like a black moon hanging in the sky, emitting an astonishing aura. At first glance, it looked like a death god's sickle. This was the Black Mountain tribe leader's battle art. Moreover, it was a high-grade battle art. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the leader of the Black Mountain tribe. He narrowed his eyes and muttered, "You will know soon whether I am arrogant or not." Boom. His aura also completely erupted. This is a 6-star war sect. The eyes of the 3 trembled. He remembered that 4 months ago, this kid was only a 5-star war master. How did he break through so quickly? But then, disdain crawled up the faces of the 3 people. So what if he was a 6-star battle ancestor? They were 3 9-star war sects. Wouldn't it be more than enough to deal with a 6-star war sect together? Boom. The middle-aged woman and the chief of the Quicksand tribe also moved. 2 great battle arts instantly shot out, releasing an astonishing killing intent. However, facing the 3 great 9-star war sects battle arts, Qin Feiyang did not panic in the slightest. Instead, he was eager to give it a try. Not bad. He just wanted to see if his strength could compete with a 9-star war master after breaking through to the 6-star war master. Little bastard, go to hell. The middle-aged woman, the leader of the Black Mountain tribe, and the leader of the Quicksand tribe roared at the same time. The 3 great battle arts carried a world-shaking aura as they crazily charged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's gaze focused as a golden light surged in his palm. Facing the full-strength attacks of the three of them, the two perfect battle arts of the origin returning technique and the origin returning sword technique were definitely no match for them. After all, the cultivation of the three of them was 3 small realms higher than him. Therefore only the 6-word divine arts and battle soul could give it a try. At this moment, the streets below had already become a sea of people. Can he do it? Definitely not. The reason why they were able to defeat the city lord last time was because they had helpers. I remember that the winged snow eagle was still a 9-star war sect. Yes, I also remember that the other wolf and that fatso are also quite strong. People discussed in private. Although Qin Feiyang had broken through to the 6-star war sect, he was only one person. No matter how strong he was, he could not be stronger than the 3 leaders. But how would they know? When he was fighting with the city lord, Qin Feiyang did not use his full strength at all. Moreover, Qin Feiyang, as long as he broke through a small realm, his strength would undergo an earth-shattering change. In the blink of an eye, the 3 great battle arts were as fast as lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived and were about to strike Qin Feiyang's body. At this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his arm and threw out 3 palms in a row. 3 resplendent golden lights immediately appeared. Crash. Rumble. The golden light was like a tide, roaring through the sky as it collided with the 3 great battle arts. Immediately, a thunderous sound exploded in the sky above the ice city. At the same time, waves of destructive air waves, like huge waves, crazily pounced in all directions with Qin Feiyang and the others as the center. The city was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. At this moment, the ice city fell into a state of panic. Because this wave of air was enough to destroy the entire city, it was also enough to turn all the people in the city into ashes in an instant. 3 lords, save us. If we allow the battle waves to sweep over, the ice city will be destroyed. Countless people cried for help to the middle-aged woman, and the other 2. But the 3 of them turned a deaf ear and stared at Qin Feiyang in the center of the battle. They have been driven crazy by Qin Feiyang, and don't want to care about us at all. What should we do? What else can we do? Escape. For a moment, everyone frantically rushed out of the city. Among them, there were many battle masters. But even the battle masters could not escape in time. That terrifying wave of air was like an invisible torrent, surging forward with irresistible force. Seeing that the ice city was about to be destroyed, many people were paralyzed on the ground and gave up struggling. Whoosh! At this critical moment, a beautiful white figure swept out from the pill tower and stood above the city. She was about 1.75 meters tall, with an exquisite figure and exquisite facial features. Her soft long hair fluttered in the wind like a waterfall. She also had a pair of sky blue eyes, as clear as a mirror, like the clear sky. She looked like a fairy descending to the mortal world, exuding an otherworldly temperament. As soon as the woman in white appeared, she raised her slender arm and gently waved it in the air. At this moment, a terrifying saint aura rolled out in the void. Wherever it passed, the air wave that was surging toward the city disappeared in an instant. It's the Tower Master. Thank you for saving our lives, Tower Master. Those who had fallen into despair saw the woman appear, and their eyes regained color as they kowtowed. The woman in white glanced at the people in the city, then raised her head to look at Qin Feiyang and the other 3. Her bright eyes flickered with a strange color. High in the sky, Qin Feiyang stood firmly in the void, but there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was a little pale. And in 3 directions around him, 3 golden lights and 3 battle arts crazily collided in the void, and for a moment, they were evenly matched. Qin Feiyang was somewhat surprised by this result. He originally thought that with his current strength, even if he didn't seriously injure the 3 of them, he would at least be able to reflect the 3 great battle arts back. But he didn't expect that they would be in a stalemate. But for this scene, the middle-aged woman, Black Mountain Leader, and Quicksand Leader were even more surprised. They had originally thought that they would be able to kill Qin Feiyang as easily as crushing dry weeds, but who would have thought that Qin Feiyang would actually be able to block their full-strength attack? Furthermore, it was a joint attack. This also meant that Qin Feiyang was completely capable of killing any one of them alone. A 6-star war sect already had such a powerful battle prowess. Then when this child broke through to 7-star or 8-star war sect, wouldn't he be able to instantly kill them? At the same time, the people in the city below also looked up at the sky after recovering from the shock of surviving a calamity. When they saw the stalemate situation, their hearts were once again set off by waves of shock. With the cultivation of a 6-star war sect, he was able to fight against 3 9-star war sections. In the end, he was still evenly matched? What kind of monster was this Qin Feiyang? How could he be so powerful? People could not help but look forward to it. Who would win? Time passed breath by breath. After about 20 breaths of time, the stalemate finally broke. Just like Qin Feiyang, the 3 golden lights became more and more courageous as they fought. Boom. Finally, the 3 great battle arts were finally repelled and flew towards the middle-aged woman, and the other 2. How could this be? The 3 of them were shocked. Qin Feiyang being able to block their battle arts had already shocked them. But now he could actually return it to them intact. What kind of joke was this? How could there be such a ridiculous thing in this world? Being distracted during a battle was fatal. The 3 great battle arts struck the 3 of them, and the terrifying aura instantly drowned the 3 of them. Screams also sounded, resounding in all directions. When everything dissipated, the 3 of them were covered in wounds and dripping with blood. The leaders of the Black Mountain tribe and the Quicksand tribe were even missing an arm or a leg. Qin Feiyang actually won? The people in the city below were all dumbfounded. But in the next moment, the ice city was boiling with noise like a tide. 1 against 3, amazing. With his current cultivation, he was strong enough to dominate under the War Saint. In this second area, besides the Pagoda Master, who else could be his opponent? People couldn't help but ask themselves. The woman in white's eyes were also full of surprise. However, although he defeated the 3 of them, Qin Feiyang also paid a heavy price. The blood in his body was surging and his 5 internal organs were injured. The left hand that used the return word technique was shattered into pieces. But in his opinion, it was worth it. Now, he could finally determine how heaven-defying the return word technique was. Before, the middle-aged woman and the other 2's battle arts were all superior battle arts. As everyone knew, superior battle arts could increase one's battle prowess by 3 small realms. In addition to their own cultivation of the 9-star war sect, if calculated according to the numbers, the battle prowess that the 3 of them had displayed before was a total of 12-star war sect. Of course, the highest level of the war sect was 9 stars, not 12 stars. This was purely a metaphor. But according to this metaphor, Qin Feiyang being able to defeat them was enough to show that the return word technique could increase one's battle prowess by 6 small realms. Because he was a 6-star war sect, he had not used any battle arts before. Moreover, if it was a one-on-one kill, he would still be able to do it. In other words, now that he was facing the 9-star war sect, he was not afraid at all. Even if it was Zhuge Mingyang, who had grasped a perfect battle art, he still had the power to fight him. After all, he still had many trump cards. For example, the battle word technique, the sacred artifact, Mu Tianyang's ribs, Chang Shui, the ancient castle, and so on. Letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyang swallowed a heal pill and looked at the middle-aged woman and the other 2. I am indeed a little arrogant, but I have the qualifications to be arrogant. Do you? Qin Feiyang chuckled unperturbed. The faces of the 3 darkened. Boom. But at this time, a terrifying aura exploded somewhere in the ice city. What's going on? Everyone looked over. Chapter 773. The aura came from the City Lord Mansion. And this aura was getting stronger and stronger, faintly showing signs of rising to the battle sage level. Qin Feiyang was no stranger to this aura. It was the aura of the City Lord. He was surprised. Was the City Lord about to break through? If that was the case, suddenly, the corners of his mouth curled up into a playful smile. No matter which realm he was breaking through, the biggest taboo was to be disturbed. Because if he was disturbed, it was very likely that he would fail to break through and fail. Then, he would have to start all over again. What he was thinking at the moment was to go to the city lord mansion to stir up trouble. If the city lord failed to break through to the battle sage level, it would definitely be more painful than killing him directly. Whoosh. He did as he said. He used the phantom steps, leaving behind a series of afterimages, and rushed toward the city lord mansion. What is he doing? Seeing this, the crowd below could not help but reveal a puzzled look. The middle-aged woman and the other two were also puzzled. But suddenly, the Black Mountain leader seemed to have thought of something and roared in shock and anger. Quickly stop him, he wants to hinder the city lord from breaking through to the battle sage level. What? Damn it! The middle-aged woman and the quicksand leader immediately changed their expressions. Whoosh! The three of them did not dare to delay for a moment. They hurriedly dragged their seriously injured bodies and chased after Qin Feiyang. Now, the three of them were definitely no match for Qin Feiyang. But as long as the city lord broke through to the battle sage level, killing Qin Feiyang would be as easy as slaughtering a dog. Therefore, no accident must happen to the city lord. No matter what, they had to hold Qin Feiyang back. Although the three of them were seriously injured, their cultivation level was far higher than Qin Feiyang's. In addition, they had mastered superior auxiliary battle arts, so in terms of speed, Qin Feiyang was at a disadvantage. In a few blinks of an eye, the three of them were in front of Qin Feiyang. The middle-aged woman stared at Qin Feiyang and said, "Don't even think about it." With just you guys? Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of disdain. "I admit that you are very strong, but as long as we don't fight you head-on, your ability to reflect attacks is useless." The middle-aged woman sneered. "You're pretty smart," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. That was right. The ability of the returning character formula was to give oneself a taste of their own medicine. In layman's terms, it was borrowing the enemy's strength. If there was nothing to borrow, then the return formula would be useless. But his means were not limited to the return formula. "Do you want to pester me? Let's see if you have the ability to do so." Qin Feiyang chuckled and stretched out his hand in the air. Clang! Following a deafening explosion, a 3-foot-long blue sword appeared out of thin air. It was the saint weapon that he had snatched from Mu Qing's clansmen. As soon as the combat sword appeared, a terrifying holy aura surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. Whether it was the middle-aged woman and her companions, or the people in the city below, they all felt as if they had fallen into the abyss of hell, and their bodies were cold. In the meantime, the white-clothed woman's pupils shrank slightly. "I got you in Sky Thunder City, so from now on you'll be called the Sky Thunder Sword." Qin Feiyang rubbed the blade and muttered to himself. His movements were extremely gentle, as if he was caressing his child. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his head and glanced at the three of them. "If you have the ability, take this sword of mine." He held the Sky Thunder Sword in his hand and slashed in the air. A dazzling sword chi suddenly burst out and slashed toward the three of them. The Black Mountain leader said in a low voice, "This sword is not ordinary." The Quicksand leader nodded and said in surprise, "Judging from its aura, it seems to be holy aura. Is this sword a saint weapon?" But before he finished speaking, a crisp and pleasant voice rang out. "It doesn't seem to be. It is a saint weapon. Quickly dodge." It was the white-clothed woman who spoke. At this moment, her face was full of seriousness. "Saint weapon." Hearing these two words, the middle-aged woman and her companions trembled both physically and mentally. He even had a saint weapon. Who was this little bastard? The power of a saint weapon was comparable to a 9-star battle saint. Even if it was not awakened and could only use 1/10 of its power, it was enough to kill them instantly. The three of them did not dare to be negligent and quickly dodged. Although the three of them had dodged, the sword chi slashed toward the city below with irresistible force. If no one stopped it, Ice City would definitely be destroyed. Whoosh! Just as the three of them dodged, Qin Feiyang swooped down and rushed toward the city governor's mansion at lightning speed. He did not care about the sword chi, because he knew that someone would take care of it. As expected, the white-clothed woman, who had been watching from the side, could not help but frown when she saw Qin Feiyang's back that was rapidly disappearing. Whoosh! Suddenly, she flickered and appeared below the sword chi. Then, she raised her arm and opened her palm. Battle chi surged in her palm. A white ball of light quickly condensed. The ball of light was the size of a palm. There were electric arcs flashing on its surface, and it emitted an unparalleled destructive aura. Go. The white-clothed woman looked up at the sword chi and shouted in a low voice. The white ball of light in her hand was like a meteor, meeting the sword chi head-on. Boom. In an instant, the white ball of light and the sword chi met in the sky and immediately exploded with a thunderous sound. Countless people's ears were spurting blood at this moment. There was a rumbling sound in their heads. Puff. At the same time, the white-clothed woman also spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face quickly turned pale. Her seemingly thin and delicate body was also trembling. Obviously, this collision had also caused her to suffer severe injuries. However, the sword chi also disintegrated in the loud sound and finally stopped this disaster. Boom. However, at the same time, above the city governor's mansion, another terrifying wave of air erupted. Everyone looked over, and their faces changed drastically. Especially the middle-aged woman and the other two, their faces were as pale as paper. They saw Qin Feiyang standing proudly above the city governor's mansion. His black hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, like a god of war descending to the world. At this moment, he raised his arm and pointed his index finger at the city governor's mansion. A terrifying aura spread out from his fingertip. Qin Feiyang, I beg you don't. The middle-aged woman cried out, her face full of pleading. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to her. An invisible force gushed out from his fingertip and rushed toward the city governor's mansion aggressively. No, I beg you, do a good deed and let him go. The middle-aged woman suddenly collapsed in the void, her face full of despair. However, seeing that the city governor's mansion was about to be destroyed, the white-clothed woman actually landed on top of the city governor's mansion in a few steps. Qin Feiyang, don't be too ruthless. Where it's possible to make mistakes, one should forgive them, she said coldly and waved her hand. That invisible force directly disintegrated and dissipated into nothingness. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and looked at the white-clothed woman seriously. This woman's aura was unusually strong. According to his judgment, it was definitely stronger than the Sky Thunder City's Tower Master. Suddenly, his gaze focused and looked at the white-clothed woman's eyes. A trace of surprise crawled up his face. Why did this woman's eyes and gaze have a sense of déjà vu? Suddenly, he remembered. The Sky Thunder City's Tower Master. This woman's eyes and the Sky Thunder City's Tower Master's eyes were extremely similar. How could this be? Could it be that these two people had some relationship? Just as he was in shock, a mighty holy aura, with the city governor's mansion as the center, rolled out in all directions. Breakthrough. Qin Feiyang frowned. Haha. The city governor has broken through. Qin Feiyang, your death date has arrived. The middle-aged woman and the other two were also in high spirits and laughed loudly. Qin Feiyang was too lazy to pay attention to them. He directly looked at the white-clothed woman and said, If I don't kill them, they will kill me. Is this what you want to see? The white-clothed woman said. You slaughtered the Min clan, Wang clan, and Li clan, 3 major tribes, 3 to 400,000 people. You should be killed. Qin Feiyang laughed and shook his head. I thought you were also a reasonable person, but I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. The white-clothed woman frowned slightly, and there was a trace of displeasure on her face. Whoosh. At this time, a white figure flew out from the city lord's mansion and stood opposite Qin Feiyang, his entire body surging with aura. It was the Ice City Governor. He looked at Qin Feiyang as if he was looking at a dead man and said, How do you want to die? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Don't be so confident. War saints are not necessarily invincible. The middle-aged woman suddenly roared in grief. He killed our son, you must kill him. What? The city lord's expression changed. He looked at the middle-aged woman and asked anxiously, Where's the corpse? Sir, the young city lord is here. Below. A guard soared into the air, holding the purple-clothed youth's corpse in his hands. Damned beast! The city lord roared, his hair stood on end, and his entire body was filled with a murderous aura. Little bastard, today I'll make sure you don't even have the chance to be a ghost. He stepped toward Qin Feiyang step by step like a mad beast, his holy aura shaking the world. Then come and try. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, grabbed the heavenly thunder sword, and swung it in the air. Clang. A wave of sword qi rushed out, its sharpness overwhelming. And even the void was crazily twisting. Seeing this, the middle-aged woman hurriedly reminded. Be careful, he has a sacred weapon, you can't fight against it. What? He even has a sacred weapon? The city lord turned pale with fright, and hurriedly used an auxiliary battle art to dodge. However, the white-clothed woman was going all out again. Because if she did not stop the sword qi, Ice City would suffer again. And now the city lord's eyes were bloodshot. Qin Feiyang obviously would not care about the life and death of the people of Ice City. Therefore only she could care about it. However, she could barely block 1 or 2 sword qi. After all, an unawakened sacred weapon could only exert 1/10 of its power, but if there were too many sword qi, even she would die here. Boom. After disintegrating the sword qi, she looked up at Qin Feiyang and the city lord and shouted, Both of you stop. The city lord roared. Impossible, he killed my son, he must die today. Then come. Qin Feiyang said lightly. The tower master frowned and said in a deep voice. Then go out of the city, don't hurt the innocent here. Follow me if you have the guts. The city lord glanced coldly at Qin Feiyang, then flew out of the city with a murderous aura. How dare you be rude to the young master, die. But at this moment, an ice-cold voice exploded. Then, a woman in white appeared out of thin air in front of the city lord. It was the mysterious woman. Chapter 774. In the face of this sudden change, not only did Qin Feiyang not react, everyone present was also confused. Where did this woman come from? But when they reacted, all of them sucked in a breath of cold air. One had to know. The city lord had already stepped into the war saint realm, and his strength was through the heavens. But in the end, this woman just waved her hand lightly and instantly killed the city lord. How strong was she? Who are you? Why are you helping the tyrant and helping Qin Feiyang kill him? After the city lord's wife came back to her senses, she immediately roared with grief and indignation. Just now, she seemed to have mentioned the word young master. Could it be that Qin Feiyang is her young master? At the same time, the leader of the Black Mountain tribe also looked at the mysterious lady in surprise, and secretly sent a sound transmission to the leader of the Quicksand tribe. When the leader of the Quicksand tribe heard this, his pupils shrank slightly. If Qin Feiyang was really this woman's young master, then Qin Feiyang's identity was not simple. Because the aura this woman exuded was even stronger than the pagoda master. Such an existence was not something they could provoke. At the same time, the mysterious lady walked in front of Qin Feiyang and said respectfully, Young master, your subordinate did not protect you well and frightened you. Please forgive me. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This damned woman. What did she want to do again? The mysterious lady smiled strangely, pointed to the pagoda master and the city lord's wife, and said, Young master, do you want to get rid of them too? At this moment, the leaders of the Black Mountain tribe and the Quicksand tribe trembled, and hurriedly knelt in the air. Young master Qin, please spare our lives. We were all forced by her, so we had no choice but to attack you. The two of them angrily pointed at the city lord's wife and begged Qin Feiyang. You. The city lord's wife looked at the two of them angrily. Did we say anything wrong? You two, one of you is the leader of the Qingyuan tribe, and the other is the city lord of the Ice City. You usually order us around and make us follow your lead. If we didn't listen to you, you would think of ways to harm us. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. We've been tolerating you for a long time. The two leaders shouted angrily. Venomous slander. The city lord's wife was furious. She knew that the two of them saw that the mysterious madam was too powerful, and didn't want to implicate themselves. They wanted to cut ties with her. Actually, this was completely understandable. If it were her, she would have done the same. However, she really couldn't tolerate this kind of creating something out of nothing and betraying her trust. On the other side, the pagoda master glanced at the city lord's wife and the other two. He also looked at the mysterious madam as if he was thinking of something. The city lord's wife and the two leaders were still arguing, but Qin Feiyang had no time to pay attention to them. He looked at the mysterious madam, and his eyes were flickering. Suddenly, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. If he didn't guess wrongly, the mysterious madam definitely wanted to continue to set him up. Furthermore, in order to trick him, he even put down his pride and dignity to pretend to be his subordinate. He really knew how to put in a lot of effort. Since that was the case, he might as well beat them at their own game. We'll talk about their business later. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and took out the cluster of elixir fire that he had snatched from the temple. First, help me erase the blood contract in the elixir fire. If the mysterious madam wanted to set him up, he definitely couldn't stop her. Instead of trying to resist, it was better to give up directly and take advantage of her first. And the blood contract in this cluster of elixir fire had always been a thorn in his heart. Because as long as this blood contract was not erased, the netherworld devil flame would not be able to advance to the 6th grade. Therefore, Qin Feiyang simply took this opportunity to ask the mysterious madam for help. And under the watchful eyes of everyone, the mysterious madam had to help. Because she had already said that Qin Feiyang was her young master. If she didn't help, her fake identity would naturally arouse suspicion. The most important thing was, at that time, when she destroyed the Min clan, Li clan, and Wang clan, she deliberately left some alive. The purpose of leaving these alive was to let the news spread quickly. But because of this, her current situation became very awkward. Because the survivors of the 3 major tribes had all seen her true face. If she fell out with Qin Feiyang here, then the rumor that Qin Feiyang had slaughtered the 3 major tribes would be dispelled. Then all that she had done would be tantamount to falling short of success. Therefore, Qin Feiyang's sudden move made her very angry. Looking at the deflated mysterious madam, Qin Feiyang was very happy in his heart. He had been repeatedly set up by this woman, and he had been very unhappy in his heart for a long time. This time he finally got back at her. Cough cough. He coughed and frowned. What? You don't even listen to this young master, do you want to rebel? You. Seeing Qin Feiyang becoming more and more proud, the mysterious madam couldn't help but be furious. But in the end, she still chose to endure and respectfully said, "How dare I not listen to young master's words?" After that, the battle power surged and pounced on the elixir fire. At the same time, Great Qin Empire Temple. On the balcony of a courtyard, a beautiful woman in white was sitting cross-legged, closing her eyes and meditating. This person was the temple master of the Pill Hall. Puff. Suddenly, her delicate body trembled, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. What happened? The next moment, she opened her eyes, and her eyes were filled with shock. Immediately after, she closed her eyes again, and carefully sensed for a moment. Swoosh. When she opened her eyes again, her face was filled with disbelief. He actually erased the blood contract of the elixir fire. How did he do it? Now, where exactly was he hiding? Swoosh. After pondering for a moment, she stood up and opened a portal, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Forgotten continent. At this moment, the ice city was in dead silence, and everyone was in danger. The mysterious madam retracted her battle power and said, "Young master, the blood contract has been erased. Do you have any other orders?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and sent the elixir fire to the ancient castle. He smiled and stretched out his hand saying, "Give me your Qiankuan bag." What? The mysterious madam was furious, and transmitted her voice. "Brat, I advise you not to push your luck." Qin Feiyang secretly sneered. "Why didn't I see you restrain yourself when you tricked me?" Last time in the Sky Thunder City, Mu Qing's housekeeper personally said that the mysterious madam was a war emperor. The war emperor's Qiankuan bag must have a lot of treasures. The mysterious madam's gaze turned cold, and she secretly said, "So you want to fight with me to the end?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, and transmitted his voice. "It's not that I want to fight with you, it's you who wants to scheme against me." The mysterious madam looked at Qin Feiyang, and suddenly smiled. Looking at that smile, Qin Feiyang's pores tightened, and an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. Brat, you want to take this opportunity to threaten me? You're still too inexperienced. The mysterious madam transmitted her voice, and the smile on her face became brighter. Suddenly, she waved her hand, and a terrifying aura surged, blasting into the city below. Accompanied by a loud sound, the entire ice city disappeared from the ground in an instant. Only the Pill Pagoda was still stubbornly sitting in the dust. Other than the tower master, Qin Feiyang, the mayor's wife, and the chiefs of the Black Mountain tribe and the Quicksand tribe, no one from Frost Ice City survived. All of them were annihilated along with the city. Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded, including the pagoda master. The leaders of the Black Mountain and Quicksand tribes were so scared that their souls left their bodies, and they pissed their pants. One had to know. The Ice City covered an area of dozens of miles, and there were at least 560,000 people. They were all killed in an instant. It was simply too savage. Too terrifying. Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his head, looked at the mysterious madam, and roared. Do you still have any humanity? So that's how it is. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the pagoda master muttered to himself, and a trace of understanding appeared in his eyes. Humanity. Young master, don't be too naive. It's only right and proper for the strong to dominate the fate of the weak. The mysterious madam sighed deeply and waved her hand again. The city lord's wife and the leaders of the two tribes also died tragically on the spot. You still call me young master? Qin Feiyang frowned. Now the mysterious madam's attitude and tone was as if she was teaching an ignorant junior. Moreover, previously, the conversation between the two of them was done through voice transmission. So even if the mysterious madam destroyed the Ice City and killed everyone would still think that the mysterious madam was his subordinate. At that time, this blood debt would still be counted on him. After killing the city lord's wife and the other two, the mysterious madam looked at the pagoda master again, and a light flashed in the depths of her eyes. Immediately, she looked at Qin Feiyang, bowed and said, Young master, the Lord asked me to protect you, and I will certainly do my best. If I have offended you in any way, I hope the young master will forgive me. What do you mean? Why didn't you kill the pagoda master? Qin Feiyang frowned tightly. But then, his eyebrows were full of hostility. This damned woman deliberately left the pagoda master alive. What he said was also deliberately said for the pagoda master to hear. His goal was to continue framing him. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang felt his body lighten, and instantly appeared beside the woman in white. Qin Feiyang looked at her in confusion. The pagoda master ignored him and looked at the mysterious madam, saying, Who exactly are you? Why did you do these things? The mysterious madam was stunned and asked, What are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Stop pretending. I've been to the first area and just came back yesterday. From the survivors of the Sky Thunder City, I found out that you were the one who stole the Sky Thunder Flame, and you were also the one who killed my sister, Wuxia. And at that time, you even wanted to kill Qin Feiyang. How could you be his subordinate? The woman in white said in a deep voice, a cold light surging in her eyes. The mysterious madam was stunned and laughed. Then why didn't you say so earlier? You made me put on a show for nothing. I didn't say it because I didn't know what the relationship between you and Qin Feiyang was. At first, I also suspected that Qin Feiyang and you might really be in cahoots. What you did in the Sky Thunder City might also be an act. Otherwise, why would my sister die while he was still alive when facing the same attack? But when I saw Qin Feiyang's reaction when you destroyed the Ice City and killed everyone, I knew that I had misunderstood him. What happened in the second area was all your doing. It has nothing to do with him, the woman in white said. Finally, there's someone who understands. Chapter 775. The mysterious lady glanced at the white-clothed woman, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said jokingly, Are you thinking that you don't have to be the scapegoat anymore? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. This woman, could it be that she was plotting something again? The mysterious lady ignored Qin Feiyang and looked at the white-clothed woman with a strange smile. Thank you for reminding me. What do you mean? The white-clothed woman frowned and had an ominous feeling in her heart. I reckon that the first district will soon turn into an Azura hell. The mysterious lady smiled. What? The white-clothed woman's eyes trembled. Qin Feiyang was also very surprised and said, You plan to kill everyone in the first region? Did I say that? But your suggestion is quite good. I will seriously consider it. The mysterious lady looked at him with a playful smile. You are simply a lunatic. Qin Feiyang was furious. This woman's plan was very clear. She would kill everyone in the first region, and then the truth would be buried forever. I don't understand. Why do you want to do this? Just to frame Qin Feiyang? The white-clothed woman also looked at the mysterious lady with a shocked face. Although the first region's overall strength was weak, it had the most people. If they really killed everyone, blood would flow like rivers and corpses would be everywhere. Frame him? You think too highly of him. This is just a game. In a game, there will definitely be winners and losers. No matter if you lose or win, there will be sacrifices. The mysterious lady sneered and looked extremely indifferent. You have harmed countless lives. In your eyes, this is just a game. How can you be so vicious? Qin Feiyang was unable to restrain his anger and wanted to kill this woman immediately. This woman had gone mad and lost her humanity. Vicious? The mysterious lady smiled disapprovingly. Boom. All of a sudden, a terrifying pressure rushed out of her body and rushed toward Qin Feiyang and the white-clothed woman. This majesty had already exceeded the scope of the sacred aura. It was the aura of an emperor. Qin Feiyang and the woman in white were immediately imprisoned in the void. After I kill you, I'll kill everyone in the first and second zones. No one will know the truth. And Qin Feiyang is destined to be the scapegoat. He can't run away even if he wants to. The mysterious madam looked at the white-clothed woman and smiled. What? You still want to kill the people in the second area? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. The mysterious madam turned to look at him and smiled. If you kneel down and beg me, I can consider changing my mind. Don't even think about it. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists, his eyes cold and piercing. If he could really save the people in the two regions, he would be willing to kneel. However, he knew this woman too well. As long as she had made up her mind, she would never change her mind. If he really knelt down, not only would he not be of any help, he would also be severely humiliated. Then there's no other way. The mysterious madam shook her head in disappointment. She slowly raised her arm and battle chi surged from her fingertips, giving off a destructive aura. His target was the white-robed woman. How lively! But at this moment, a faint laugh came from afar. This voice, Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. Two streams of flowing light pierced through the air like lightning. After their true appearance was revealed, one of them was Qin Feiyang's old acquaintance, Mu Qing. Next to Mu Qing, there was an old woman in black. Her body was bent, and she held a black walking stick. Her deep-set eyes were filled with wisps of eerie light. Why are you in such a sorry state every time I see you? Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly and said. Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly, Nothing good happens every time I see you. Don't be so cold. After all, we used to fight side by side. Moreover, my target this time is not you. As Mu Qing said, her eyes suddenly turned cold. She turned to look at the mysterious madam and said, It's time to settle the score with Sky Thunder City. The mysterious madam ignored him. Her eyes were firmly fixed on the old woman in black. The old woman in black was the same. Since she appeared, she had been sizing up the mysterious madam, as if she wanted to see through her. Who are you? The old woman in black was the first to break the silence and asked in a hoarse voice. If I remember correctly, you should be the previous housekeeper of the Mu family? The mysterious madam did not answer but asked instead. The previous housekeeper? Qin Feiyang was secretly shocked. That elder Sheng who appeared back then was the current housekeeper of the Mu family. If he had the strength of an 8-star battle saint, then how strong was this previous housekeeper? The Mu family's foundation was really terrifying. He was puzzled again. With the Mu family's strength, it was easy to kill him. Why did they not do anything to him? Was it because of Lu Xingchen's instructions? If that was the case, Then the relationship between Lu Xingqian and the Mu family was not ordinary. You even know my identity. It seems that you are very familiar with the Mu family. But why don't I remember that there is someone like you in the forgotten continent? The old woman in black was very surprised that the mysterious madam was able to see through her identity at a glance. But she was even more confused. On the forgotten continent, the Mu family was an unparalleled existence. As the previous housekeeper of the Mu family, she knew of anyone who had a bit of strength and status. But she had no impression of this woman in front of her. She was a stranger. Me. The mysterious madam faintly smiled and said, I am just a nameless nobody. I am not worthy of the Mu family's attention. A mighty battle saint is also a nobody. It seems that you won't be honest. I can only take you down and bring you back to the family for interrogation. After she finished speaking, the old woman in black's gaze was cold. She grabbed the black cane and forcefully stomped it in the air. Boom! A monstrous ferocious aura erupted from the black walking stick. It was as if a peerless beast was sealed inside the cane. As soon as the aura appeared, Qin Feiyang felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Despair, panic, fear and other negative emotions appeared uncontrollably like a tide and instantly drowned his entire body. At the same time, the mysterious madam also stared at the black cane, her pupils constricting. Swoosh! Suddenly, she turned around and used a mysterious footwork, quickly disappearing into the horizon. The old woman in black smiled contemptuously and said, Young master, should we chase? Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyang, pondered for a moment, and nodded. Chase! The black-clothed old woman immediately waved her hand and brought Mu Qing along. Like a bolt of lightning, she tore through the sky. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Why did they all leave? Mu family? The white-clothed woman looked at the backs of Mu Qing and Mu Qing. She also frowned and fell into deep thought. When the mysterious madam and Mu Qing disappeared from his sight, Qin Feiyang finally let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, he finally got rid of the mysterious madam. Then, he looked at the white-clothed woman and asked, Do you know the Mu family? Never heard of it. The white-clothed woman shook her head. Your sister doesn't know, and you don't know either. Who exactly is the Mu family? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The Forgotten Continent is very big. It is said that apart from the first and second regions, there are 7 regions in the depths. The white-clothed woman said. So, there are 9 regions in the Forgotten Continent? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. But apart from these 9 regions, there is a 10th region, and this 10th region is called the Central Divine Kingdom. The Central Divine Kingdom's territory is very vast, bigger than the 9 regions combined. It is said that there are many strong people in the Divine Kingdom. Any one of them has the ability to overturn rivers and seas. I think the Mu family may be a member of the Central Divine Kingdom. The white-clothed woman guessed. Central Divine Kingdom, Qin Feiyang murmured. It seemed that the Forgotten Continent was much more complicated than he thought. Have you been to the Central Divine Kingdom? Qin Feiyang asked. No. The white-clothed woman shook her head, a trace of yearning in her eyes. No. Qin Feiyang was surprised and asked, Is there a pill tower in each of the 9 regions? Yes. The white-clothed woman nodded. Qin Feiyang asked again, Then where is the headquarters of your pill tower? Our branch's tower master has no right to ask about this, so I don't know. The headquarters may be in the 9th region, or it may be in the Central Divine Kingdom. The white-clothed woman said. Why do you look like you don't know much about the pill tower? Qin Feiyang frowned. The pill tower is very mysterious. Even us branch tower masters only know about the existence of the pill tower. Others, such as who is the head tower master, how long has the pill tower existed? We don't know anything. The white-clothed woman also looked confused, and it did not seem like she was pretending. Then how did you and your sister become the tower masters of the first and second regions? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. I became the tower master of the second region, because I was appointed by the tower master of the third region. My sister was appointed by me. Our pill tower system is that each level is in charge of the next. For example, The Tower Master of the first region is the Tower Master of the second region. The Tower Master of the second region is the Tower Master of the third region, and so on. Similarly, if something happens, the branch Tower Masters can only report to the higher-ups. They can't overstep their authority. For example, I can only report to the Tower Master of the third region. I can't directly go to the Tower Master of the fourth region, let alone the head Tower Master. Of course, I can't directly contact the head Tower Master either. The white-clothed woman said. After Qin Feiyang heard this, he could not help but frown slightly. The so-called system of the Pill Tower was very easy to understand. In fact, it was similar to the system of the Great Qin Empire. The counties were under the jurisdiction of the 9 regions, and the 9 regions were under the jurisdiction of the imperial capital. They could not overstep their authority. However, this system had advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage was that it was old-fashioned and cumbersome. Moreover, once something big happened in the various regions, the higher-ups would not be able to receive the news immediately. For example, this time, the heavenly thunder flame had been snatched for a long time. The Pill Tower's head Tower Master probably still did not know about it. The advantage was that the higher-ups did not have to be so busy. Think about it. If all the Tower Masters went to the head Tower Master whenever something happened, wouldn't he be busy to death? On the contrary, because of the existence of this system, the branch Tower Masters of each region could share some of the work for the head Tower Master. Therefore, no matter what, it was impossible to have the best of both worlds. Back then, after I became the Tower Master of the second region, in order to take care of my sister, I let her be the Tower Master of the first region. After all, to be able to become the Tower Master of the Pill Tower, not only would her status be higher, but she would also be able to obtain a lot of cultivation resources. But I didn't expect that in the end, it would cause her death. Chapter 776. Qin Feiyang looked at her with a complicated expression and comforted her. The dead can't be brought back to life. Please restrain your grief. The woman in white looked at the sky and did not speak for a long time. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. Finally, she let out a long sigh and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, asking, "Is there anything else you want to know?" "Yes. The Pill Pagoda holds an assessment every 5 years. Is it held at the same time for all the branch towers?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes." The woman in white nodded. "In that case, there are still many disciples in the Pill Pagoda?" Qin Feiyang looked at the Pill Pagoda that was located in the ruins and said, "That's right." The woman in white nodded again. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "There is one more question. Every time after sending away the disciples of the Pill Pagoda, Wuxia would disappear and only appear during the next Pill Pagoda assessment. Where did she go during this period of time?" "Other than the Pill Pagoda assessment and training disciples, she was always with me," the woman in white said. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and said, "One last question. What secret is hidden in the heavenly thunder flame?" Hearing this question, the woman in white's eyes suddenly burst with a strong cold light. She looked at Qin Feiyang with eyes as sharp as a blade. But in the end, the woman in white shook her head and said, "I don't know either." "You don't know?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "I'm not lying to you. I only know that the Pagoda Master of the third region told me and my sister that whether it is the heavenly thunder flame of the Sky Thunder City, or the ice flame of the Ice City, they are very important. Even if we die, we have to protect them. Because once these alchemy fires are taken away, the world will be in chaos. As for why, he didn't tell us." The woman in white said. "What? The alchemy fire of the Ice City also hides some kind of secret like the heavenly thunder flame?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. What was going on? Who could explain it to him? The woman in white asked. "Any other questions?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Why did he feel that there was something wrong with this woman's tone? Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying saintly aura emerged. Before Qin Feiyang could react, he was imprisoned in the void. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang's face darkened as he looked at the woman in white. Although the people from the Min clan, Wang clan, and Li clan were not killed by you. It is an indisputable fact that you wanted to seize the heavenly lightning flame. You're half the reason why my sister died. Therefore you must die today. The woman in white spoke coldly, and a wisp of dense killing intent crept up in her eyes. Qin Feiyang's heart sank to the bottom at once. Why were the women of the forgotten continent so fickle? He fell out with her just like that. However, right now he was at least a 6-star war ancestor. As for the white-robed woman, although she was a battle saint, she was still far inferior to Old Man Sheng. Her aura might not be able to restrain him. Die. However, just as Qin Feiyang was about to break the pressure and enter the castle, a cold shout rang out. Qin Feiyang was very familiar with this shout. It was the mysterious lady. Behind the woman in white, the mysterious lady who had escaped earlier appeared out of thin air once again. Moreover, he didn't say a word and directly killed the white-robed woman. Looking at the woman in white who was slowly falling down, Qin Feiyang was incomparably astonished. He then raised his head to look at the mysterious lady and frowned. Aren't you being chased by the Mu clan? That old woman is indeed very strong, but if she wants to kill me, she's dreaming. The mysterious lady laughed disdainfully. Can you tell me, who exactly are you? And what kind of sacred being is the Mu clan? Qin Feiyang asked. The mysterious lady wouldn't kill him. Otherwise, she would have already made her move the moment she appeared. You don't have the right to know yet. Remember, your future path will be even more difficult. The mysterious lady laughed coldly. With a flash, she landed beside the white-robed woman's corpse, grabbed a few drops of blood, and rushed towards the pill tower. What do you want to do now? Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly chased after her. The mysterious lady landed in front of the pill tower and dripped a drop of blood. When the tower door opened, she rushed in without looking back. Qin Feiyang also went straight in. As soon as he entered the pill tower, a series of screams came into his ears. Damn it! He was shocked and angry at the same time, and ran upstairs. Soon, he saw corpses lying messily on the ground, and the smell of blood was pungent. The owners of these corpses were no more than 25 years old, and the youngest was only 14 or 15 years old. They were all disciples of the Pill Tower in the 2nd district, and they had just died. Obviously, they were killed by the mysterious lady. How many more deaths do you want to commit? Qin Feiyang roared and quickly rushed to the top floor of the Pill Tower. But when he came up, the mysterious lady was already holding a palm-sized flame in her hand. That flame was like bone fire, completely white, and emitted a shocking chill. This is the frost flame. Do you want it? The mysterious lady looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile. Qin Feiyang looked at the frost flame and was not tempted at all. He said in a deep voice, I only want to know now, are you really going to kill everyone in the 2nd and 1st districts? The mysterious lady frowned and said, I don't understand. They are just a bunch of ants. What's there to care about? In your eyes they are ants, but in my eyes, they are all living creatures. Qin Feiyang roared. Although sometimes he would also kill, but to kill innocent people crazily, even if he had a heart of stone, he could not do it. The mysterious lady said with a smile. Then kneel down and beg me. I'll kill you. Qin Feiyang was angry and pounced on the mysterious lady crazily. But the mysterious lady only waved her hand lightly, and Qin Feiyang was sent flying. He hit the wall hard and spat out blood. Boy, you are too kind. If this goes on, no matter how good your talent is, it will be difficult for you to achieve great things. I'll give you the Frost Flame and Sky Thunder Flame. Cherish them well. They will be of great use in the future. The mysterious lady waved her hand and the Sky Thunder Flame appeared. Following the 2 alchemy flames, it flew toward Qin Feiyang. At the same time, the mysterious lady also turned into a stream of light and flew out of the pill tower. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He quickly got up and grabbed the 2 alchemy flames. Enduring the pain, he chased after them. Whoosh! Mu Qing and the black-clothed old woman also turned back. Seeing the mysterious lady, the black-clothed old woman's eyes were cold. She said gloomily, You really came back. It's a pity that you only came now. It's too late. I've already given the Sky Thunder Flame and the Frost Flame to Qin Feiyang. If you want them, go and find him. The mysterious lady smiled mockingly, then turned around and left without looking back. Mu Qing and the black-clothed old woman heard and looked at Qin Feiyang simultaneously. When they saw the sky thunder flame and the frost flame in Qin Feiyang's hands, a trace of desire and greed immediately appeared in their eyes. Qin Feiyang, hand over the 2 alchemy flames. The black-clothed old woman shouted coldly. Her eyes were aggressive and she completely ignored the mysterious lady. In your dreams? Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. In a flash, he went directly to the ancient castle. Damn it! The black-clothed old woman was furious. She turned to Mu Qing and bowed. Young master, I didn't do my job well. Please punish me. It's not your fault. I was too careless. We should kill the tower master first and take the frost flame. Then, we can go after that woman. Mu Qing rubbed his aching head and said. Ever since he met Qin Feiyang, nothing went his way. Could it be that this bastard was born with bad luck? Then what should we do now? The black-clothed old woman asked through telepathy. Mu Qing pondered for a while. Instead of answering, he asked, what do you think of that woman's strength? Very strong. If I didn't have this crutch, I'm afraid I wouldn't be her opponent. The black-clothed old woman's face was extremely solemn. Then have you ever thought about why such a powerful existence would lurk in the first district? Mu Qing asked. The black-clothed old woman thought for a while and said, in this situation, there's only one possibility. She's hiding from something. That's right. She might be hiding from her enemies. And last time in Sky Thunder City, when she heard that Elder Sheng and I are from the Mu family, she immediately turned hostile. This means that she has a lot of hatred for our Mu family. Go back immediately. I want to know the details of all the enemies of our Mu family, as soon as possible. Mu Qing said through telepathy. What about you, young master? The black-clothed old woman asked secretly. The sky thunder flame and the frost flame have already fallen into Qin Feiyang's hands. We must not let him get the other kinds of elixir fire. So, I must go to the 3rd district before him. Mu Qing said in a deep voice. The black-clothed old woman nodded, but then shook her head and said, I'm worried about you going alone. It's okay, I'll be careful. After you find out, immediately go to the White Tiger City in the 3rd district to find me. Mu Qing secretly instructed. Okay. The black-clothed old woman pondered for a moment. Looking at Mu Qing's determined face, she finally nodded. Then, the 2 of them each opened a portal and walked in at the same time. At the same time, Great Qin Empire, Imperial Palace. In one of the big halls, the Pill Hall's hall master was pacing back and forth by himself. He seemed to be very anxious. Suddenly, 2 figures appeared. They were both middle-aged. One of them was wearing a set of golden armor. His eyes were sharp, his face was rough, and his body was emitting a terrifying aura. It was the commander of the invincible Black Army. The other one was wearing a purple armor. His body was thin and weak, but the aura that he emitted was even stronger than the commander of the invincible Black Army. Shockingly, a lifelike fire Qilin was engraved on his purple battle armor. That's right. He was the commander of the Kirin army. His position in the Imperial Palace was even higher than the commander of the invincible Black Army. Why are you looking for us in such a hurry? Did something big happen? As soon as the 2 commanders appeared, they looked at the Pill Hall Master suspiciously. Yes. The Pill Hall Master nodded and said in a deep voice, the elixir fire that Qin Feiyang took away from the Pill Hall had its blood contract erased not long ago. That's it. The 2 commanders frowned. Chapter 777. Looking at the 2 commanders' reaction, the Pill Hall Master frowned and said, do you think it's not important? Is it? The 2 commanders asked back. They couldn't figure out what was so important about it. The Pill Hall Master sighed deeply. He looked at the 2 of them and asked, what's my cultivation? 9-star battle saint. The 2 of them answered without hesitation. Think about it. I'm a 9-star battle saint, but Qin Feiyang can erase the Dan Flame's blood contract. Doesn't this mean that there's a 9-star battle saint beside him now? Or, The battle saint might even be stronger than a 9-star battle saint? The pill hall master said in a deep voice. The two of them were stunned for a moment before they frowned. It seemed like it wasn't a small matter. Qin Feiyang's threat to the Great Qin Empire. I believe I don't need to tell you. If we don't get rid of him as soon as possible, when he grows stronger, the consequences will be. Speaking of which, the pill hall master sighed deeply and didn't continue. His eyebrows were filled with worry. The two commanders looked at each other. They naturally knew what the pill hall master wanted to say. With Qin Feiyang's hatred for the emperor, he would come back sooner or later. This man was talented, calm, meticulous, and had extraordinary means. It was almost impossible to find any flaws. If that day really came, the consequences would be unimaginable. The commander of the invincible Black Army was silent for a moment. He looked at the commander of the Kirin Army and asked, "Should we report this to the emperor? No matter what, they are father and son." Wait a moment. Before he could finish his sentence, the pill hall master extended his hand and said, "Why?" The commander of the invincible Black Army looked at him confusedly. "Before reporting, we have to figure out who's helping Qin Feiyang?" The pill hall master said. The two commanders went silent again. Qin Feiyang definitely didn't have the ability to erase the blood contract himself. No matter how talented he was, it was impossible for him to become a 9-star battle saint in such a short time. There was only one possibility left. Someone else helped him. However, in the Great Qin Empire, 9-star battle saints and those above 9-star battle saints were all known to them. And these people were all generals under the emperor. For example, the martial arts hallmaster, law enforcement hallmaster, various martial marquis, various commanders, etc. No one would help Qin Feiyang, because helping Qin Feiyang was equivalent to going against the imperial power. No matter how big the world was, it was the king's territory. On the shores of the earth, all are the king's subjects. Who in the Great Qin Empire would dare to go against the emperor? Therefore, the people from the imperial capital could be excluded. Apart from these people, who else would help Qin Feiyang? The commander of the Kirin army suddenly said, "Do you think it could be the Lu family?" Lu clan. Hearing those two words, the invincible Black Army's commander and the pill hall's hallmaster's eyes trembled. The old master of the Lu family is Qin Feiyang's grandfather. The strength of the Lu family is also extremely terrifying. Only they have the guts to help Qin Feiyang. The commander of the Kirin army said, "It can't be the Lu family." But at this moment, an old voice could be heard. Then, an old man appeared in the palace. He had white hair and a white beard. His white robe was also clean, emitting an otherworldly aura. "Greetings to the imperial tutor." The pill hall's hallmaster and the other two quickly bowed. "Yes." The imperial tutor nodded and said, "The lifeline of the Lu family is now in the hands of the emperor and me. They won't dare to act rashly." The commander of the Kirin army asked, "Then, according to the imperial tutor's opinion, where could Qin Feiyang be hiding?" The imperial tutor pondered for a while. His eyes flashed and he said, "I do have a thought. The Forgotten Land." "Why do you think so?" The three of them were surprised. They were also in awe of the Forgotten Land. Other than the Great Qin Empire and the Lu family, only the Forgotten Land has battle saints and existences beyond battle saints. The imperial tutor said. The three of them looked at each other and nodded involuntarily. "However, this is only my guess. I still need to verify it," the imperial tutor said thoughtfully. He then looked at the commander of the invincible Black Army and said, "Bring some people to the Forgotten Land immediately." "All right. I'll report to the emperor now." The commander of the invincible Black Army nodded and was about to leave. But at this moment, the imperial tutor said lightly, "There's no need to report to the emperor." The commander of the invincible Black Army was stunned. He turned around and looked at the imperial tutor suspiciously. The commander of the Kirin army and the pill hall master also looked at him confusedly. "I believe you guys can see that the emperor still has some feelings for Qin Feiyang. If the emperor knows about this, he might stop us," the imperial tutor said. "Although you're right, we can't hide it from the emperor. This is a crime of deceiving the emperor," the commander of the invincible Black Army said. Although it's a crime of deceiving the emperor, we're doing it for his own good. We're helping him to get rid of the trouble and stabilize the great Qin Empire. If the emperor really wants to pursue this matter in the future, I'll take responsibility. The imperial tutor said. This? The three of them looked at each other. The imperial tutor frowned and said coldly, "Don't be long-winded. Go." Yes. The commander of the invincible Black Army bowed and replied. He then turned around and left. Only we know about this. Don't tell anyone else. A cold light flashed in the imperial tutor's eyes. He said something to the pill hall master and the invincible Black Army before disappearing without a trace. After a while, the pill hall master frowned and said, "Deceiving the emperor and acting on his own. The imperial tutor is getting bolder and bolder. We can't help it. He's the emperor's teacher. Even the emperor has to respect him, let alone us." The commander of the Kirin army sighed. Forgotten continent. Ice City. The once bustling Ice City was now in ruins. The air was filled with a tragic aura and a pungent smell of blood. Near the Pill Pagoda, there was a speck of dust lying quietly in the ruins. That speck of dust was the ancient castle. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes to heal his wounds. The frost flame and lightning flame were floating in front of him. They were emitting two extreme temperatures. One was a high temperature that could burn his wounds. The other was a bone-piercing cold. About half an hour later, Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes. His essence, qi and spirit had recovered to their peak state. Lu Hong had been guarding Qin Feiyang the whole time. Seeing that Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, she asked with concern, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Qin Feiyang smiled. He raised his head and looked at the frost flame and lightning flame. His eyes were filled with suspicion. The nether demonic flame has already devoured the 3 Tier 5 pill fires and leveled up to Tier 6. But the strange thing is it didn't take the initiative to devour the frost flame and lightning flame. Lu Hong said. "Really?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. He stood up and looked at the nether demonic flame floating above the Jiao Dragon Cauldron. The nether demonic flame's aura was indeed stronger than before. Logically speaking, the heavenly thunder flame and the frost flame were now ownerless. And the nether demonic flame had also leveled up to Tier 6. It could completely devour these 2 pill fires. But why didn't it do so? Could it be that the heavenly thunder flame and the frost flame were not Tier 6 pill fires, but Tier 7? Or even higher? Thinking of this, with an expectant mood, he turned to face the heavenly thunder flame and the frost flame. He cut his finger and dripped his blood to bind them. Soon, the blood contract was completed. But the result disappointed him. These 2 pill fires were indeed only Tier 6. But why did the nether demonic flame not devour them? What secrets were hidden in this? Looking at Qin Feiyang, who was thinking hard and frowning, Lu Hong said with concern, "If you can't figure it out, don't think about it. Anyway, the truth will come out sooner or later." "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Hong asked, "Then where are you going next?" "To the 3rd area. The woman in white said that the pagoda lord of the 3rd area told her and her sister that they must protect these 2 pill fires." "Then the pagoda lord of the 3rd area is most likely an insider." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. After he finished speaking, he left the castle and flew toward the 3rd area. As for the double-winged snow eagle, he was really not in the mood to look for it, nor did he want to look for it. Chirp! But after flying for about half a mile, a sharp chirp sounded behind him. Qin Feiyang paused in the void and turned his head to look. He saw a palm-sized snow eagle, breaking through the air like lightning. Who else could it be but the double-winged snow eagle? Flying in front of Qin Feiyang, the double-winged snow eagle said angrily, "Ungrateful bastard, where are you going? Why don't you wait for me?" "Ungrateful? When I was fighting with the city lord and the others, where were you? When I was imprisoned by the pressure of the mysterious lady and the pagoda lord, where were you? You say I'm ungrateful? How dare you?" The fury in Qin Feiyang's heart immediately surged up with whooshing sounds. At the critical moment he could not find a trace of it. But as soon as the matter was over he jumped out. He had never seen such an unreliable guy. Faced with Qin Feiyang's scolding, the double-winged snow eagle laughed awkwardly. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said expressionlessly, "Tell me, where have you been fooling around these past few months?" "In the Ice City," the double-winged snow eagle said. Qin Feiyang paused for a moment, then his anger rose again. He roared, "Then why didn't you come out to help? You can handle it, can't you? Why do you need my help?" Later, the mysterious lady and the others appeared. Each of them was so powerful. How could I dare to come out? Fortunately, I escaped in time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see me now. The double-winged snow eagle laughed. "Cowardly as a mouse," Qin Feiyang despised. "I'm cowardly?" the double-winged snow eagle said angrily. "Let me tell you, after you hid in the castle, I went to follow the mysterious lady." "Follow?" Qin Feiyang paused and asked hurriedly. "Did you find anything?" "Why should I tell you?" The double-winged snow eagle tilted its head and put on a very cold look. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He said helplessly, Okay, I apologize. Tell me." "That's more like it." The double-winged snow eagle smiled proudly and said, "I didn't find anything, but I saw with my own eyes that she slaughtered the Qingyuan, Quicksand and Black Mountain tribes. Not a single person survived." "What? She really did it?" Qin Feiyang's face turned pale. Chapter 778. Also, she found out that I was following her, but she didn't attack me instead. Speaking of this, the two-winged snow eagle paused, its eyes full of confusion. "Instead what?" Qin Feiyang asked. The two-winged snow eagle's mind moved, and two streams of light flew out from its body and flew in front of Qin Feiyang. These were two jade slips, each the size of a palm, emitting a faint light. "What are these?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "See for yourself," the two-winged snow eagle said, with a trace of excitement in its narrow eyes. Qin Feiyang sank his mind into the two jade slips, and was immediately stunned. These were actually two kinds of battle arts, and they were both perfect battle arts. One was called Mighty Eagle Body, which was a perfect killing battle art. The other was called Azure Dragon Illusion, which was a perfect auxiliary battle art. This, Qin Feiyang was stunned for a long time before he recovered, looked at the two-winged snow eagle and said, "She didn't give this to you, did she?" "Yes, she gave it to me. And she didn't take the treasures and elixir fires of the 3 tribes, so I took them all," the two-winged snow eagle said. Qin Feiyang frowned. Back in White Fox City, this woman was definitely not pretending to want to kill him. But in the end, not only did she not kill him, but she also continued to give him battle arts? He really couldn't figure out what this woman wanted to do. "Not only did I get 2 perfect battle arts, but I also got 3 kinds of 5th-grade elixir fires and countless treasures. How is it? I'm very powerful, right?" The two-winged snow eagle smiled proudly. "Yes." Qin Feiyang gave a thumbs up and said, "This mighty eagle body should be specially given to you. Take it and cultivate. As for the Azure Dragon illusion, leave it to the Black Dragon Snake." "Why? She gave it to me." The two-winged snow eagle suddenly became unhappy. "It's for you, but you have a fighting soul, so you don't need this battle art. Also, the treasures of the 3 tribes, as well as the 3 types of pill flame, must all be given to Lu Hong," Qin Feiyang said. The double-winged snow eagle was enraged. "Fuck. You're blatantly robbing me." "I'm not convinced," Qin Feiyang teased. "Then do you still want to open the door of potential?" You." Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, the double-winged snow eagle lost its temper. It said helplessly, "Fine, you bandit. I'll give it to you." "That's more like it. Since you've already decided to follow us, you should share our blessings and hardships with us." Qin Feiyang chuckled and waved his hand, sending the double-winged snow eagle to the castle. Then he turned into a stream of light and continued to fly into the depths. About 2 hours later, a glacier entered his line of sight. The glacier rose and fell, towering and majestic, stretching for tens of thousands of miles. Countless ferocious beasts roamed the mountain stream. Their auras were all extremely powerful. Even at the edge of the area, Qin Feiyang could sense the aura of dozens of ferocious beasts above the 5-star War Master level. One could imagine, in the depths of the glacier, how terrifying was the strength of the ferocious beasts. However, Qin Feiyang did not stop at all. He directly entered the glacier and disappeared into the horizon. 2 hours were very short for ordinary people, because sometimes cooking a meal would take an hour. But for the mysterious madam, she could do a lot of things in an hour. All the large and small tribes in the second area had been destroyed by her. At this moment, looking at the entire second area, there was not a single place that was intact. There were ruins everywhere, and corpses were everywhere. This place had become an Azura hell. It was even worse than hell. Blood gathered into a river. The entire world was shrouded in a bloody mist. Such cruelty, such inhumanity. It was simply the right for everyone to kill. But she didn't stop. Open the door of potential and head to the first area. For the people of the second and first areas, this was a terrifying calamity. Before anyone could figure out what was going on, they had already lost their lives and didn't have the slightest ability to fight back. At the end of the first area, above the ice lake in the glacier forest, a group of uninvited guests also appeared. They were all wearing black armor, and their aura was like the ocean, unfathomable. Especially the leader, who was wearing a golden armor, exuded an aura that shook the earth. That's right. This was the invincible Black Army from the capital. There were a total of 21 people, and they were all curiously looking at this world. One of them suddenly retracted his gaze and looked at the commander of the invincible Black Army. "Commander, have you been here before?" "No." The commander shook his head and said, "But this commander has heard of this place. This is a very magical and terrifying place. Remember to be careful in the future." "Understood." The 20 black-armored guards bowed and replied, "Let's go." Then, the commander of the invincible Black Army waved his hand and was ready to leave with this group of people. "Stop." But at this moment, a cold voice sounded, "Kacha, Dong." Before the voice faded away, a huge snow python swept out from the ice lake below and suspended in the air, looking at this group of people. Such a strong aura. At the same time, the commander and his group of people looked at the snow python, and their pupils couldn't help but shrink. The snow python suddenly asked, "Are you from the Great Qin Empire?" This was a woman's voice. It was very clear and pleasant to the ears. "Yes." The commander of the invincible Black Army nodded and said, "May I ask who you are?" "Don't worry about who I am. Where did you come from? Go back to where you came from. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude," the snow python said. The commander immediately frowned. As the commander of the invincible Black Army, other than a few people, who dared to speak to him in such a tone, even the marquises had to be polite when they saw him. Therefore, the snow python's attitude made him very unhappy, but he also knew that as a newcomer, he had to endure as much as he could. After all, he didn't know much about the Forgotten Continent. "Sir, I am the commander of the invincible Black Army of the Great Qin Empire. This time, I came to the Forgotten Land under the orders of the Emperor. Please make an exception." He cupped his hands and said in a friendly manner, "The commander of the invincible Black Army." Hearing this, the snow python's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. After pondering for a moment, she nodded and said, "Okay, but I will only give you half a month. After half a month, if I don't see you come back, I will personally come and find you. At that time, you will have to bear the consequences." After she finished speaking, a terrifying pressure suddenly rushed out of her body. Under this pressure, even the commander of the invincible Black Army couldn't help but feel frightened, let alone the 20 black-armored guards behind him. Their eyes were filled with shock, and their bodies and hearts trembled. However, the pressure came and went quickly. Dong. In the next moment, the snow python entered the ice lake and disappeared from everyone's sight. What is this Forgotten Land? Why did we encounter such a powerful existence as soon as we appeared? The 20 black-armored guards looked at the ice lake in surprise, and cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. The commander said in a deep voice, "That's why I asked you to be careful. Let's go, we only have half a month. We have to speed up." Whoosh! The group of people turned into streaks of light and rushed out of the glacier forest like lightning. "Commander, look, there is a tribe in front of us." One of the black armored guards pointed in front of them. The tribe he was pointing at was the Lu tribe, which was located at the edge of the glacier forest. The commander of the invincible black army glanced at the Lu tribe and said, "Let's go and ask them." In less than a few breaths, a group of people descended on the sky above the Lu tribe, and they didn't hide their aura at all. "Who is it?" The people of the Lu tribe also walked out of their houses and looked at the invincible black army with vigilance. One of the black armored guards waved his hand, and a white figure appeared in the air. It was Qin Feiyang. The black armored guard looked at the people of the Lu tribe and asked, "Have you seen this person before? Isn't he Qin Feiyang? That damn bastard. Why are you looking for him?" The people of the Lu tribe saw Qin Feiyang's shadow and their killing intent soared. "You found him just like that?" The commander of the invincible black army was stunned. Wasn't it too easy? Cough. He clenched his fist and coughed, then asked, "Are you sure you didn't recognize the wrong person?" "Of course. Because we have a blood feud with him. A few years ago he and his companions killed all the battle kings of the Lu tribe. So, even if he turns into ashes, we can still recognize him." The group of people roared with grief and indignation. A few years ago, the commander of the invincible black army was stunned. Even if Qin Feiyang came to the Forgotten Land, it hadn't been that long. How could they say that it was a few years ago? "To be honest, we were ordered to hunt down Qin Feiyang. So, I hope that you can cooperate with me and tell me everything about him. At that time, I will definitely avenge your dead clansmen," the commander of the invincible black army said. "Okay. That bastard should have died long ago. We will tell you everything that happened that year. That year not only did he commit crimes in this area, but he also went to White Fox City and Sky Thunder City to commit crimes." The clansmen of the Lu tribe all started to talk at once. Whatever they knew, whatever they had heard, they told him in full detail. After hearing everything, the Grand Commander furrowed his brows. He didn't expect that Qin Feiyang had come to the Forgotten Land a few years ago. How did he come here? Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. It must be the teleportation altar of the spiritual state. He dared to let Qin Feiyang enter the Forgotten Land without permission. The spiritual state mansion master was really bold. He looked at the people of the Lu tribe and said, "Can you give me the coordinates of Sky Thunder City? A few days ago, we heard rumors that Sky Thunder City had been destroyed, and Qin Feiyang seemed to be one of the culprits. But we don't know the coordinates of Sky Thunder City. You can go to White Fox City and ask around. The people there should know." The people of the Lu tribe also gave the coordinates of White Fox City to the commander of the invincible black army. "Thank you." Chapter 779. White Fox City. When the commander of the invincible black army and the others arrived above the city, they were all stunned. How could there be a city here? Below, there was a barren, fragmented ruin. There were corpses and severed limbs everywhere in the wasteland. Blood dyed the soil red. The pungent smell of blood filled the air. It was nauseating. How could this be? The group of people's eyes were filled with shock. One should know. As a member of the invincible black army, everyone's hands were stained with blood. But at this moment, looking at the scene below, they could not help but shudder. It was too cruel. Who was this crazy person? Suddenly, a guard in black armor seemed to have discovered something. He pointed to the left and shouted, "There's someone there." Swoosh! The group of people looked over and saw a white-clothed woman in the sky above the wasteland. The white-clothed woman stood in the air. Her long hair and dress fluttered in the wind. There was no aura around her. She seemed to have merged with the air. If they did not see her with their own eyes, they would not have noticed her. Moreover, looking at the woman, the commander of the invincible black army felt a sense of crisis. "Who are you?" the white-clothed woman asked. She looked at the invincible black army with curiosity. "Who are you?" the commander of the invincible black army asked. The white-clothed woman frowned and said unhappily, "I'm the one asking you now. I don't want to ask you again." You're courting death. Seeing the woman's arrogant attitude, a guard in black armor behind the commander of the invincible Black Army was furious. His eyes flashed with a terrifying cold light. You're the one courting death. The woman in white suddenly looked at the guard, but he didn't move at all, nor did he show any signs. Accompanied by a scream, the guard in black armor exploded and died on the spot. What? This means. Seeing this, the rest of the black-armored guards were dumbfounded. No matter who you are, you must die today. The white-clothed woman did not say anything else. She raised her arm and pointed her finger in the air. Boom. A monstrous power gushed out like a raging wave of a vast ocean. It blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it rushed toward the invincible Black Army. This is... The commander of the invincible Black Army was startled. Suddenly, his pupils contracted as he shouted, "This is the Emperor's aura! Retreat!" Emperor's might. The expressions of the group of black-armored guards behind him changed abruptly, and they hurriedly turned and fled. Who would have thought that this woman was actually a battle emperor? As for that person, she was none other than the mysterious Madam. White Fox City was naturally destroyed by her. As the mysterious lady looked at the fleeing invincible Black Army, a mocking look appeared in her eyes. The strength of this group of people was terrifying. But in her eyes, he was no better than an ant. She waved her hand, and the surging Emperor's might instantly turned into 20 streaks of Emperor's might that shot towards the Grand Commander and the others. Those black-armored guards died one after another, unable to retaliate at all. Their blood splattered across the sky. In the blink of an eye, there were only 11 people left, including the Grand Commander. Your Excellency, we are the invincible Black Army of the Great Qin Empire. Please show mercy. The commander of the invincible Black Army hastily shouted. He cursed his bad luck in his heart. They had only been in the Forgotten Land for a short period of time, and they had already encountered 2 terrifying experts. What kind of place was this? If this continued, not to mention chasing after Qin Feiyang, they would probably be completely annihilated before they could even find a trace of Qin Feiyang. The Great Qin Empire? At the same time, the mysterious madam was stunned when she heard the Grand Commander's shout. In the next moment, the Emperor's throne that was charging towards the Grand Commander, and the others disappeared into thin air. The Grand Commander and the others heaved a sigh of relief. The mysterious madam looked at the Grand Commander and asked, "Are you here to find Qin Feiyang?" The Grand Commander was wiping the cold sweat on his forehead when he heard the question. He looked at the mysterious madam and asked in surprise, "Your Excellency, you also know Qin Feiyang?" "Of course I know him." The mysterious madam smiled and said, "This kid almost died in my hands several times." The Grand Commander's eyes flickered slightly when he heard this. He asked cautiously, "So you also have a grudge against Qin Feiyang?" "Sort of." The mysterious madam nodded. Hearing this, the Grand Commander's heart finally relaxed. "To tell you the truth, I came to the Forgotten Land to hunt down Qin Feiyang." He cupped his hands and said. The mysterious madam was stunned and asked in confusion, "Why do you want to hunt him down?" The Grand Commander said, "This is an order from above. It's not convenient for me to reveal it. Since it's not convenient, I won't force you. But there's one question you must answer. What's Qin Feiyang's status in the Great Qin Empire?" The mysterious madam said. The Grand Commander was in a difficult position. "If you don't tell me, you'll all die." The mysterious madam chuckled. Although her tone was calm, there was a terrifying murderous intent. The Grand Commander frowned and sighed. "All right, I'll tell you. Qin Feiyang is the son of the Emperor of the Great Qin Empire, but due to some special reasons, he has been stripped of his position as prince." "What? He's the son of the Emperor?" The mysterious madam was shocked. She had thought that Qin Feiyang's identity in the Great Qin Empire was definitely not simple, but she didn't expect his background to be so great. But soon after, the corner of her mouth lifted slightly as she mocked. "That Emperor of your Great Qin Empire is really an old fool." The Grand Commander's gaze darkened as he said, "Sir, please pay attention to your words. What I said is the truth. Qin Feiyang is so young, Yet he has already stepped into the 6-star War Master. He can be said to be an unparalleled genius. The most important thing is that he has a tenacious personality and never gives up easily. As long as he is nurtured a little, he will definitely become a great talent in the future. But your emperor crippled him and even sent you guys to chase after him. To be honest, saying that he's old and confused is already praising him. The mysterious madam sneered. The Grand Commander's face was as gloomy as water. Just what kind of background did this person have to actually dare to evaluate His Majesty like that? Suddenly, he realized a very serious problem and asked in surprise. What did you just say? Qin Feiyang has already stepped into the 6-star War Master? That's right. The mysterious madam nodded. That's impossible. The last time he escaped from the imperial capital, he had just broken through to the 4-star War Master. It's only been a few months, and he actually broke through 2 small realms in a row. Even if he opened the gate of potential, it's impossible for him to be so fast. The Grand Commander's face was filled with disbelief. The remaining 10 black armored guards also had looks of disbelief on their faces. What did you say? He opened the gate of potential. The mysterious madam was also surprised. Yes, he once said that he had already opened the 5th level of the gate of potential. The Grand Commander said. The 5th level. The mysterious madam was also shocked, but then a smile crawled onto her face as she muttered, "Little bastard, you really hit it well." The Grand Commander suddenly said, "Sir, since you have enmity with Qin Feiyang, why don't we join hands to deal with him?" Join hands? The mysterious madam laughed and shook her head. If I wanted to kill Qin Feiyang, he would have died long ago. Why would I need to join hands with you? After pausing for a moment, she continued. Moreover, you are a 9-star war saint after all. To deal with a mere 6-star war master, you actually need to find someone to join hands with. Don't you think that you are ridiculous? Hearing these words that were filled with ridicule, the Grand Commander lowered his head in embarrassment. That's right. No matter how monstrous Qin Feiyang was, he was only a 6-star war master right now. What was he afraid of? However, the mysterious madam's attitude made him very puzzled. What was she thinking? Since they had enmity, why didn't they kill him and let Qin Feiyang continue to grow? He pondered for a moment and asked, Then you won't stop us from killing Qin Feiyang, right? Why should I stop you? The mysterious madam shook her head and smiled. Not only will I not stop you, I will also tell you his current whereabouts. Really? The Grand Commander was overjoyed. He should be on his way to the 3rd area right now. I will give you a coordinate. When you get there, fly straight into the depths. I believe that it won't be long before you can catch up to him. The mysterious madam smiled. The coordinates given to the Grand Commander were the coordinates of the Ice City. Thank you. The Grand Commander cupped his hands and thanked her. Then he opened a teleportation gate and quickly left with the 10 guards. The son of the Great Qin Empire's emperor. No wonder that Snow Python allowed him to freely enter and leave the Forgotten Continent. Mu family. Qin family. It's getting more and more interesting, the mysterious madam muttered to herself. Finally, she pursed her lips and disappeared without a trace. Let's talk about Qin Feiyang. After entering the glacier, he kept encountering fierce beasts blocking his way. Moreover, these fierce beasts all had the strength of a 5-star war master at the very least. It could be said that they were extremely annoying. In the end, he took out the Heavenly Thunder Sword. The Heavenly Thunder Sword was a sacred artifact. Even though it had not awakened, the sacred might it emitted was enough to make the fierce beasts below the War Saint panic. Even the War Saint level fierce beasts did not dare to act rashly. So, along the way, there was no danger. In the evening, Qin Feiyang landed on the peak of an ice mountain and looked ahead. In front of him, it was a lush snow forest that covered an area of several miles. Ancient trees were uprooted and towered into the sky, looking incomparably strong. At the top of the tree, there was a thick layer of snow accumulated. At first glance, it looked like a huge snow-white umbrella standing in the snow. And in the forest, he could faintly sense an extremely terrifying aura. But more importantly, in this huge forest, he only sensed this aura. This meant that In the forest, there was only one fierce beast. But this fierce beast was the emperor of this area. The other fierce beasts did not dare to set foot in this place. And Qin Feiyang stopped to think, should he take a detour? Because without any suspense, the fierce beast lurking in the forest was definitely a war saint-level existence. Although he had the heavenly thunder sword in his hand, he could not awaken it. If an accident happened, wasting time was a small matter. If his life was endangered, it would be too late to regret it. Very soon, he made a decision. In order to avoid some unnecessary trouble, it was better to take a detour. Whoosh! He once again soared into the sky and flew towards the right side of the forest. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.